Today's show is brought to you by America's #1 sports app. That's Prize Picks. They got so many options on this app, so many different ways you can go, so many directions you can put your ticket together from a variety of different areas: baseball, football, seasonal picks, game picks, player picks, over, under, fantasy. They got the goods there. And you can take advantage today with my code HMA. And when you get a $5 winning lineup, they'll put $150 in your account. One little $5 winner, 150 goes into your account just like that. That's a hell of a deal. And they've got so many selections on here. Whatever your flavor, whatever you like to pick, put your sports knowledge to the test and go earn yourself some money on the back of it. Terms and conditions do apply. Please do see their site for details. And, always remember to gamble responsibly. Welcome on in here to the Hawks Nest live stream show, where we have officially gotten through the end of the off season. We have gotten through the end of the preseason period, and now all the fluff is out of the way. All the pageantry has proceeded. We now find ourselves here on the precipice of the beginning of the NFL season, and I hope you are as jacked as I am. Okay? You better be locked in. And today we are touching off some of the final particulars here on this football team as the preparations get honed on in. And that means that we are looking forward to tomorrow and the final cutdown day, which has become, historically speaking, a very interesting day in the NFL, not simply because it's a look at what your final roster is going to be. That part is definitely interesting, and we're going to get into that here. But it's also about the action that goes on the day. John, of course, is looking at all teams at all times, all players throughout the league, keeping an eye on guys, tracking guys. Hey, we kind of liked this guy when he was coming out in the draft. Let's double back around over to him now that this team doesn't find him be as much of a fit for them. So this is a very intriguing time of year. Trades can occur oftentimes in addition, where a team goes, well, we're going to release him. And then team B comes over and says, hey, don't release him. Send him over to us for a 6th rounder. Get something when you're going to get nothing by releasing him. And that team goes, oh, okay, we'll get him over there. So there's also trades that go back and forth this time of year. It's a very interesting one, and an opportunity for you with John, as always, to try to improve and help the ball club out 365. It's not just simply something you're doing for a subsection of the year. This is when we're going to improve the team, and all through the rest, it's just all about practice and improvement. No, all times you're looking to improve. It's also going to be a tremendously difficult roster cut this year as you are looking, and I was going through last night. I doubled back down to it this morning. Shout out to our German Seahawkers out there for the site they created. I know we've all been using it on the syndicate a ton, and it's been very useful, but you find yourself struggling this year as much as ever to try to kind of figure out what's what and who's who as far as this final order goes, because of the fact that the roster is even fuller than it was last year. You do have, an injury like Tella Charbonnet where he'll be inactive. You got some questions about some of the injuries out there on the roster still with Julian Neal. So these are all, I think, kind of fair to wonder about a little bit, but it is just tougher this year. And there's going to be some guys that we're going to lose that's going to be painful and that are going to probably go to other football teams. It is really, this year just seems very clear in that way that it's going to play out in this manner. So we're going to get here and take a look at the final cut down day projection for myself. We all do this, just kind of a fun thing to do and try to get your head around seeing how close you are to as far as following the team and just kind of tracking what's going on. They always throw you a few curveballs. That's the nature of the beast. But before we get to that, we do have a little bit of Seahawks news, and that is today breaking finally. Terrion Arnold is going to be a Seattle Seahawk this season. They have signed him to a contract now officially. I know it almost seems like maybe Mike Florio was talking out of his ass just a little bit. With all the, I don't know if they're going to sign him now. I mean, how can you sign him now? So Arnold's in the building. He's on a vet minimum. There are a couple of other shoes to drop now as far as what the next things are going to go down with this. Seattle cut a player to make room for him for one day, and then he goes on the inactive list immediately. The commissioner's inactive list. The second part of this then is the culmination of the commissioner's report and investigation into the situation. This is, a little bit of a kangaroo court, whatever they want to do, however they want to look at it, however they see it kind of situations. It'll go that way. Now they do some due diligence and they've got their investigators and all that stuff, but it's obviously not a court of law. Now, the feeling I think seems to be on this, and this is tea leaves reading. I ain't going to lie, this is me throwing the bones on the table and going, the bones are saying this. I get it. So it is still a bit of a question here, but I think if we're going to try to read between the lines on this for a championship roster and a team that doesn't have to necessarily do this thing, that there's got to be, to me, some sort of indicator that has existed here a little bit that at some point or another, after the commissioner's report and absent culmination of his trial, absent that reaching its end, which it's not likely to do so this year, especially considering the charges, that he probably will be made available at some point along in this year. And to me, it would look like to me you do the 10-game suspension maybe. That's just the auto place that it's at. That would go even beyond the James Pierce suspension that he got. James Pierce allegedly practically ran over a cop. So we'll see how that one kind of goes. Now, I think with Pierce, he did have a little bit more of at least, again, that situation reached its conclusion. The somehow or another, everything got twisted back in the court system from looking horrible at first. And this is why you always want to be careful in these with the knee-jerk reaction, because afterwards with it came out, a lot of stuff was kind of lessened down from what it was. So very maybe a similar situation here. I would expect it to play out next. He's also going to go meet with the commissioner and at that point sit down and hopefully lay out his story to the commissioner, and hopefully he can be very, he can move him in the way of like, look, was set up, or like, this isn't what it seems, or whatever it may be, but it doesn't hurt the Seattle Seahawks. And now you do look at their cornerback room, one that many of you out there had a lot of question marks about him and whether or not this was going to be one that we're going to have to reinforce at some point or another. Well, you're looking like you're not going to have to at any point or another in this season. Trayvon Diggs going out making a play yesterday, already very stacked up as far as the room goes in that manner. You feel really good about what you got there. You got potential down the road. A guy like Arnold comes off potentially the NFI list, and it's like a trade deadline acquisition down the stretch run for a guy that's going to have fresh legs coming to the team. And yeah, he's not necessarily practicing. You're not going to say, don't know what you're exactly going to get, but it doesn't hurt. It certainly doesn't hurt. Yeah. So he's in the books. We'll see how that situation plays out. It's one that's very fluid, of course. But you feel good about the cornerback room. One more place on this football team that is stacked to the nines, depth reinforced, and going to be one as we look at here in the roster projections that's going to be very hard to quite figure out what's what. So let's go over here and look at this really quick before we go over to my projection. This was your 53-man roster last season. You walked into the year with Uchenna Nwosu coming off that IR. That was a little bit of a question. He was good to go at that point in time. You had both Walker and Charbonnet in full, but you only went with 3 running backs on the roster last year. I would put Brady Russell into more fullback, tight end kind of territory where you may want to kind of right between the two there. You also had Oots as your fullback on the roster. You held on to 4 tight ends last season. The offensive line-wise, you had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You had 9 guys in the offensive line you kept. You had 5 cornerbacks and 4 safeties, 5 defensive linemen, and then outside linebackers, off-ball linebackers, only about 8 of those. So it was a 53-man roster that gets tough. You can't forget about the specialist angle of it. You got 3 being taken away from the 53, so it's really a 50-man roster between the rest of the positional players. And so you hold on to 6 receivers last year, and when I put my list together for this year, I kind of kept it similar here. And I think a few things jump out about this list is that Mason Richmond would have technically have been your probably backup right tackle, but that's Josh Jones was going to be the first guy off the bench as a swing tackle for either Cross or Lucas if they go down. So there is a little bit of a thinking here from my standpoint as we build this up that maybe Seattle's going to be okay with not necessarily having that 4th tackle on the roster per se, that they would slide a guy out like potentially even Zabel out there in a pinch early on in this year. I think certainly they can get guys on the practice squad like a Kite who could probably get to the practice squad, or a Logan, Logan Brown, could get there as well. So we'll have to kind of see on that part of it. But I did use this as a baseline. You're going with the same offense that you used last year. I do believe that it's going to be very important from Fleury's perspective to have a fullback. So I think that that's a place where I might differ from other people in their outlook of it and not having Lampy make the team. He certainly wasn't amazing in his action so far. So some of this could also be determined by him being a little bit less than what they hoped he was going to be when they picked him up. He's got to get his blocking down a little bit better. That's what he's here for after all. but I am going to anticipate that they're going to keep that. 3 quarterbacks again, anticipating that they're going to keep that. And so when you do look at what we're going to go through here now and kind of try to figure out which direction I think the Hawks are going to go, understand I'm kind of using this as the basic snapshot for trying to project this out. I think that you do notice that Imanwari, though, listed as safety. If you really think about it, typically NFL historic terms, you're going to keep 4 safeties, maybe the 5th, but usually 4. It's usually 1 extra corner or 1 extra safety. Imanwari is basically a cornerback at this point, and so that's really where you're going to see with 4 safeties around that. So here is how I put my thing together here. Hopefully I got you guys where you can see this. Let me increase the font here a little bit so everybody can get a little bit of a better view, hopefully. I know sometimes it can get a little wonky here. Okay. So I don't think there's going to be a ton of surprises here out the gate. Quarterbacks, everybody's in alignment with this. There's no chance Milroe is going to be cut or that's on the table. If it was ever even a possibility prior to last night's performance, it's not. You're not going to be able to stash him on the practice squad. You got to put him on the active roster, and it's okay. You got plenty of room to be able to get this pulled off. Though, admittedly, when we start to look at the rest of the roster and why we can't keep certain guys and why certain positions get a little tight, this is what you have to do when you're going to keep little extras. And the Seahawks like to keep little extras, meaning this typical team over here is not going to have 2 fullbacks on the roster and then also 4 tight ends and then also 3 quarterbacks. That's where it starts to lean down some things just a little bit here and trying to figure out, who is going to make it. Obviously, Price, Holani, Wilson, those are my 3 backs that I have making it. Charbonnet goes on to the inactive list out the gate. I think that they're going to give him some time on that injury. And I think that with where the running back position is at and health-wise, how you stand with it, I think you're going to feel pretty good about staying with these guys early on in the year. I do think Brady Russell makes this team because of the fact that he provides a lot of universal value, especially for what he does on special teams, which can't be understated. Brock Lampy is the guy that's a little bit maybe the questionable one on this one, where you could go no Lampy, and then they just decide to roll with their tight ends and kind of have a variety of different guys play that fullback kind of position on the team. But it's just one that's so rigid in this system. It's one Shanahan uses. It's one Kubiak uses. It's one a lot of guys that run this pure West Coast scheme a little bit do lean on. And let's face it, Kyle definitely loves his fullback. He pays $5 million a year just to have Juszczyk back there basically taking up space. So, it's going to probably be on the roster, in my opinion, bottom line. Receivers was another tough one, and I'm maybe going to break a couple hearts out here with some of my projection on this. And, forgive me for that. I'm sorry. But, I thought a lot about this one. Easy peasy on the front line, guys. Jackson, Rashid, Cooper, Torrey. And then we get the last guy that we're going to keep on the roster, in my opinion. And I think that we will go with 5 wide receivers rather than 6. Though there is a possibility of going to 6, but this is where things to me get a little bit lean and you got to pluck from somewhere. You are going to run a lot of 12 personnel. You're going to run the ball a lot. You're not going to be in 4 wide receivers constantly. The potential need to have the 6 receiver is not as hardy right now, in my opinion. It's possible, just to me, not as much of a necessity. This could be flipped up a little bit where Torrey Horton also, because of the mysterious injury situation, could find himself inactive, a la like Zach Charbonnet out the gate. Then you would have a Montario Foster and a Cody White. Why Cody White over Montario Foster? Well, I think that Cody White did maybe not quite as much as Montario in receiving category things in preseason, pretty darn close. I think that he's a better returner than Montario Foster. I think he's a better special teams player than Montario Foster. So this is one of those situations where the last receiving position on the team comes down to who plays the special teams the best. It's great to have the receiving upside. And I think if Cody was a guy that had no receiving upside, had not done anything on the field, and you had gotten what you got from Foster this preseason so far, I think that you're probably going more to a Foster. But Cody's done some stuff to probably prove himself here, and I think that that's going to have the team leading more in the direction of rolling with him here. Now, admittedly, there is the veteran thing on this side of it where you think we can stash him on the practice squad week 1. We can roll with Montario Foster, and then we can bring him back week 2, and then his contract is non-guaranteed. We'll see if they do that. I think that they're going to need Cody White. Again, going back to like that special teams value against a tough Patriots team out the gate, you're going to need all hands on deck a little bit. And if there's a little bit of a not quite as good between him and Foster on that side of it. That would be, I think, just enough on this one. Though I would admit, if they went with Foster over Cody White here, it wouldn't be surprising. And if they went with a 6 wide receiver over just the 5, it wouldn't be necessarily surprising. I think 4 tight ends, everybody's going to be in a uniform opinion on this. Nick Callerup was your highest graded offensive player by PFF in this past game. The other 3 guys are locked in. Barner coming back from the injury, but Arroyo looking really good. Glad we haven't heard anything about the hand being broken here after the game. Hope everything's okay there. Yeah. Offensive line wise, how many linemen am I keeping? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just like last year, 9 linemen. You guys know the starters. Josh Jones, our swing tackle, both your first backup off the bench for the left or the right side. Oluwatimi, Bo Stevens, dirting up Chris Jones last night. I said Bo Stevens, dirting up Chris Jones last night.
We took us in the house and served us pancakes.
Yeah. Pancaking Chris Jones. I tell you no lies. Oluwatimi back as a backup here. Christian Haynes had a very strong preseason overall, I think. Showed improvement, which was cool to see as well. Offensive line looking in good shape for the upcoming season. When we look over here at the defense and go down the line on this one, make sure I'm not in your guys' way here. Nope, good. We got Williams, Murphy, Reed, Mills. Easy. I do think that it's telling that Mike Morris didn't play in the last preseason game, and Peely really either. So I think both those guys have kind of locked in their status here on the football team. I think you're keeping them both. Mike gives you both inside, outside ability and what he offers to the table. Jared Ivey, I think, did his best this preseason with that club on his hand. I think he goes back to the practice squad. But Mike Morris, initially here, I think will be your active guy on the roster. Team likes what he's bringing. Ernest Jones, Lawrence, Drake Thomas, Uchenna Nwosu, Derek Hall, Dante Fowler, Tyrese Knight. None of those are in question. It's Patrick O'Connell that maybe someone will be wondering with. I went with him. Chaz Surratt is a guy that they'd love to probably get on the roster too for special teams value, but that was one of the ones where I was kind of clipped from being able to find where you add him at. And he flashed maybe a little bit more in this preseason than O'Connell did. O'Connell got a little bit, just a hair late at times on the reactions and run. Not necessarily getting off the blocks great. Surratt sometimes looking a little bit more explosive. But I think the team will probably lean to O'Connell as that final guy. Admittedly, that could kind of go either way, though. That's kind of a coin flip to me on that just a little bit. But the rest of these are pretty hard-lined in, I think, as far as they go. Quarterback, Devin Witherspoon, Job, Neal, Pritchett, Diggs. Diggs has got to make the roster at this point, no doubt about it. And Julian Neal's the questionable one. He joins into that area. It was a long stream last night. Give me some room today, folks. He joins into that era of Zach Charbonnet and maybe Horton, where they maybe not guys that are going to be long-term IR guys or inactive, but maybe he's not on the active game day 1 roster. To put an Igbignogany on there in order to, in order to just let him have a little bit more time to mend. Though that's a tough one too, because if Igbignogany's on the roster after the week 1, the full year salary is guaranteed, even on that minimum, and you do want to try to avoid that. So I just lean back on he'll probably be on the active roster, even if they've got to roll with the 4 quote-unquote corners for game 1 while he's still on the mend. You've got Eamon Wari as essentially, again, your 5th corner here on top of it at that point if he was still banged up and not ready to go. From the safety position standpoint, I do see Seattle holding on to 5 here. As you can see, though, again, one of them is Eamon Wari, so it's really, truly 4. I gotta love your starters. I do have D'Anthony Bell and Rodney Thomas making the roster. There is some thought to the fact maybe you would have Finley making it a Bell so that you don't have the guaranteed salary thing coming into possibly play. But I just think that come week 1, you want the reinforcement of Bell to be able to come off the bench for Eamon Wari, especially if Eamon Wari's not fully ready to go in 100 miles an hour week 1. He's kind of that backup slot now to Eamon Wari. I think the idea here is you want to keep Witherspoon on the outside as much as humanly possible. Not that there aren't going to be some snaps fluxed in there, but just that he's not the first guy to go outside in when Eamon Wari comes off the football field. And I think that's where my logic and reason is going to on this one a little bit. And then again, you're going to need him potentially in that game 1, and we Don't still yet know where Eamon is going to be at exactly as far as the health go. Really cool to see Rodney Thomas come in last night and make a nice hit and a good play out there in coverage. This is another guy. Just need him to step up with Bud Clark's injury. Probably on the bubble, probably making this roster as much as anything else because of the fact that Bud Clark had the injury. But a guy that wasn't under the radar, very low-end signing by Seattle to hopefully reinforce the safety depth this upcoming season. And I'm expecting him to do so. So I think Rodney does make it. You're going to carry the 4 safeties on top of Eamon, as he is more of a cornerback. There is some room definitely for some fluctuation. It was tough not to keep Cable Dew on this roster. It was hard not to keep an extra tackle on this roster. But I just kind of fell back in line of just feeling like I clipped wherever else I could kind of clip. I think Brock Lampy's a necessity here, I think. And Brady Russell is not the same kind of blocker at the fullback position. He's more in that hybridic kind of build, which isn't a bad thing. He serves a good role here, but that you need a hammer guy. You need the fullback hammer. And you can't really get that when you've got the tight ends that are 6'4", 6'5", because these guys got to win the leverage in the hole. They got to get low. And those guys that are big and long like that have a harder time getting down and in there, or else everybody would be using their tight end as a fullback throughout the league. And you do see it as more of a rarity than you see it as kind of a commonplace sort of thing. So this was a tough one to put through. I was grinding my gears last night trying to take this away and add over here and consider this. I think there's certainly a way where Seattle might look at this with a couple of those situations in Horton, Neal, and Charbonnet is not going to be active at all, I don't think. But the other two, at least, that, maybe we can use these situations as a way to kind of keep an extra couple guys on the roster, a Foster or whatnot, for a week until we can come back around and then try to stash them away on the practice squad once we're into week 2 of the NFL season. You guys let me know what you think, though. Do you like the list? Do you like these selections as far as the possibilities go? So I do love the roster right now and the strength of this roster and how hard it was to put this together. Of course, I've got Myers and Dixon and Stoll. I'm not clipping Myers yet, but Stoll's got to make the roster. So you got those 3 you got to put hardlined in there. But yeah, this was a tough one. This was a very difficult one to put together, and I don't envy John on that, is that they're going to make calls in this cutdown period tomorrow where you're letting go guys you don't want to let go, and you're letting go guys that as a Super Bowl winning team, just by the nature of the beast, it worked this way last time with the Legion of Boom. When you win the bowl, the vultures come a-pecking. The ugly birds, you know what I mean? That looks good. That looks good. I want some more of that. How about one of your backup safeties? Yum, yum. Ooh, you got a receiver over there. He looks good. Vultures. Develop your own stuff. Stop. Don't take our stuff. Appreciate you guys watching today. Thank you as well for hopping in last night, as so many of you guys did. We had well over 10,000 for a preseason game and still counting here on that. So thank you for that. Really do appreciate you guys. Let's check in with you guys here in the chat and see how it's going. And we had a little bit of a earlier cut down yesterday with some of the timing on this. I know all people are probably out and about on a Saturday. Beautiful, no doubt, Saturday where you guys are at, as it is here. But we'll go for as long as you guys want. A little bit of chat today. Do appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button if you could do me that favor as well. Just a quick shout out again to the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks, America's #1 sports app. And use my code today, HMA. And when you use that code, a $5 winning ticket gets you $150 in your account. That's tough to beat, hard to beat, absolutely. And all you got to do is that code, or just click the link down in the description section below. Yeah, there are some limitations still in the state of Washington. You can use it on any Casinos network, and we've got casinos all over the place in the state. Or if you're using it off a Casinos network, I'm told you're able to just do the overs or just pick the game picks themselves. Just one of those many options that the app offers. I've, of course, got Jackson going over 1,300 yards this season. Jacoby Myers over 750 receiving yards as far as a couple of seasonal tickets that I put together. I think the Jaren Price 749 yards rushing this year is also a very, very, very tasty selection. So take advantage of today. And remember, the terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. And you know what? You know what I'm going to say. Always remember to gamble responsibly. All right, y'all. Let's see where you're at. Thank you for a couple donations here right off the rip. Jeffrey, as ever, being just tremendously kind and generous. Appreciate you for that, Jeffrey. He says, thank you for the $5. We officially signed Aaron Donald. He said the Rams suck, and he's going to leave the 0 and get with a hero. Oots' health concerns me going forward. Yeah, there's a lot of room for kind of like trying to figure out the injury situation with some of these guys, and it leads to a lot of us sitting here going, well, is it gangrene? Is it just going to rot off? And kind of because, Mike likes to play a little bit of that Belichick game where it's like, I don't want to tell you anything about my injury stuff. And you're going to have to put me on a torture chair and waterboard me in order to get me to give you any exacting details. And I think to a degree, he looks at that as like a tactical advantage for games. I can't necessarily disagree with him. If I've got to prepare for all possibilities rather than this possibility, that makes it tougher on me as an opposition. But as a fan, it definitely leads us getting very worried, especially when we start talking about necks, especially of our history of necks here in Jeffrey with our players. Max Strong, neck, went down south, ended up ending his career. Cliff Averill, neck, went down south, ended up ending his career. Cam Chancellor, Chris Carson. So when you start to hear that, you do start to have, little hairs stand up on your arms and you go, uh-oh, and you hope not. Mike says they are trying to deal with something on it that's going to be to get it resolved. Somebody did ask, good job on the reporters, to ask just flat out, is this something that is about to turn into mayhem here with him that you guys can't get figured out and it's going to end his career? And kind of inferring this to Mike. And Mike's like, we're trying to work on this now in the hopes of, that not being the case, that's why we're being proactive about it right now in the way that we're being. So hopefully there is an answer to be had here, but I think that you're rightful to be worried about it, Robbie Oots. And since you brought him up, Jeffrey, I mean, I'm not going to get a lot of opportunities to play my Oots button this year. Oots, 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 Oots. Got to get the opportunity when I can, Jeffrey. You know what I mean? I appreciate you for the $5. Hey, Darnold wants to come actually play for a champion. You know what I mean? You want to come out of You want to come out of retirement with all the expectations in the world just to fall short? Or you want to come out of retirement and epically, especially right now, Aaron, come here. Come here, Aaron. I know what's going on right now. We both know what's going on. They're trying to look at you as the best player in NFL history on the defensive side of the ball, and they're trying to cheapskate you. They're throwing you pins and saying, come back for 5, come back for 10. Come on, Aaron, we wouldn't do you like that. We wouldn't do you like that. We treat our players right. Look at all the contracts we're throwing out. You can get in on this. You want to go with the loser? You want to go with the hero? You got 2 options here, Aaron. And I think you're having some struggles with it right now, and I don't blame you on that. How dare they offer you that? How dare they go to the best defensive player in NFL history and don't make him a proper offer, talking about budget and future cap hits? Don't let him get away with that. Tell him I want to come to Seattle then. You ain't going to do me right by me. I want to go to Seattle. Appreciate you, Jeffrey. We can only hope. I think the Rams would be like, Charlton Heston when it came to Aaron Donald. You can pry him from my dead cold fingers. Ah! They're not letting us have him. Jeffrey, thank you for another $2 donation, brother. Says, let's invite Vrabel's girlfriend to our game 1. Yeah, that would be, I'm in favor of this idea. Chasing edges is what I call this. Diana's needing work right now. Say, hey, Diana, look, we're going to bring you down the Seahawks sideline. You're just going to stand kind of close to Mike. And then his wife's not going to let you stand too close, but kind of close to Mike. We're going to put a microphone in your hand so it looks official. But then you're just going to stare down Vrabel the whole game. That's all we want you to do. That's like a 25K drop or something, right? The new owners would spring for that. Vrabel in there, just eyes darting the whole game, looking disconnected. I think you're onto something here myself, Jeffrey. This is one of those things. Are you chasing edges, or are you really chasing edges? Are you doing everything you can do? Not like Dana can use some work right now. She would say no. Jeffrey, man, thank you for another $5 donation. You're very kind, brother. I got to get you applause for that, man. I got to get you a little applause for that. Says, all the more reason we should bundle up our picks to move up for quality players in the next draft that'll make the roster. You know, this is what I'm hot and heavy on. This has been for about the last month and a half, the emerging sort of dream in my mind. And it is me being admittedly a little bit hoggy, right? Like, how dare you have the temerity and hubris to believe that your team doesn't have to take some of those 11 picks to go and soup this team up further for this NFL season? How dare you, Brando? Do you know how hard it is to win a Super Bowl? But I'm getting greedy a little bit. I am getting greedy. Where you get through this year, you have, again, potentially the ultimate success, and then you can walk into the next year's draft with 11 picks to bundle and package. Couple twos, couple ones, take a little bit from 28 to 27, take a little bit from 27 to 28. Bada bing, bada boom. A mill here, a mill there. Make a full moose. I don't know, man. I'm maybe I'm too captured in it, but these players in this next draft are looking good. And the thought process of being able to sort of get around this thing that tends to happen on this life cycle of these Super Bowl teams, where it's like, especially even these particular teams like we have here, or the Legion of Boom was, where it's like even a young team that's really good, they've got some sustainability and some length of time to them. But then what happens to them, like what happened to the Legion of Boom, is that you're winning and you're winning and you're in the playoffs and you're doing well and you're in the playoffs and you're doing well in the playoffs. And draft after draft after draft after draft after draft, you're picking in the 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, mid-20s, late 20s. And these drafts, and you get in the late 20s, is kind of, it gets into a more crapshoot spot of things at times. You know, and that those teams don't tend to, we didn't get that opportunity, and these teams don't tend to get that opportunity to then go pick up in a top 10. You know, the Eagles on their current run, if I'm not mistaken, have not had an opportunity to go into the top 10 to go get a guy. I think that they've tried a little bit here and there. Or no, yeah, Jalen Carter was the guy they did that with. I'm sorry, being an idiot. You have Carter in there. Was that not that was just their native pick. And they picked him, I think, 10. So that was right at the line. But the point being is it just tends to be hard because you're out of that sway of being able to pick in that zone. Meanwhile, your roster is getting a little bit older. What if you could inject another difference maker just coming into their own at that time into that roster? Such a unique kind of situation to be added. And I've really tried to think about, it's kind of like, I guess, the Ravens getting Haloti Nada, as Ray had gone through a pretty good portion of his career. But I was really struggling is even finding like equivalents of teams being able to pull this kind of move off. You know, it's always for a player or a vet, or you're taking aging roster, like the Rams did, where, you're taking a Verse and you're going to get a Garrett. It's all about today. It's all about right now. And that is typical to kind of NFL history in that way. But it's as much because you just don't have the ammunition to be able to throw a package of picks together, Jeffrey, to be able to then make that big trade happen. And the opportunity to do it a couple different ways, where it can be the big trade to the top of the draft. It could be a couple of high twos. The draft's going to have some depth to it as well, probably. Especially if we're talking high twos in that area, there should be good players there. So many fun discussions we're going to have about what possibilities better, this, that. But it does, of course, require John not to let this money that's burning a hole in his wallet right now to the deadline sort of stand pat. And we'll see when it comes to that, Jeffrey. It is too, where you can do a little bit of parsing. You can make a minor move, a Rashid Shaheed move, and still be walking in with 9 picks. Still be walking in with an extra third rounder in 2028. Appreciate you, Jeffrey. You're awesome, brother. Nolan, thank you for the $10 donation. Hi, B. Just to clarify, my C+ for Milrow was meant as a positive. 79 to 80% of a real starter showed growth. Okay. That definitely added context helps. That makes sense, because that's not just that's the overall. Yeah, that's completely fair. You know better. How much was against vanilla looks and backups? No hate intended. It's a great questions all the way around. And again, I think that you're in a fair place of that saying that. I think that that's if Jalen Milroe walked out onto a football field right now and was asked to play in an NFL game and take legit snaps, I think that would be probably the grade of performance that we would be looking at with him, right? Not all bad, but you're not also looking at a guy that's out there lighting the world on fire, or to your point, ready to go as a real starter. That's a good, I think you chose some real good key words there. Jalen showed growth. So let's take it to two different places on the Jalen showed growth. And again, I'm right there with you on that bottom line outlook of him on the situation. He showed growth in two different areas. We had not seen it up until last night's preseason game. Him putting a performance on where it's like, okay, stuff's coming forward, progress is happening. Last night's performance was really impressive. Really, really impressive. And it's impressive, not just because simply the bottom line of statistics number-wise look good. He's got over 100 rating and no interceptions. It's good because of the degree of difficulty. And this gets a little bit back into the other part of your question here. The past couple of weeks, and not just the past couple of weeks, but there has been a change in preseason. Preseason used to roll where there was almost like a common understanding between both teams walking in that we're going to run stuff very vanilla defensively. And you're not going to get a lot of blitzes, let's say, or stack boxes, or a lot of trying to confuse these young players that are just getting their NFL legs ready. That's been thrown a bit out the window in recent years. I mean, look at even last week with the Titans, Nolan, a guy in Saleh who doesn't blitz at all. Like he's one of those acolytes of Carroll that looks at blitzing as like kind of a cardinal sin. And so he's over there blitzing the hell out of Jalen. He's running blitz this side, dropping away that side. The Chiefs were doing some similar stuff. So I don't know that we can go back anymore. We could have one time, but I don't know when I go back and look necessarily that it's pure vanilla like it used to be. Is it to the complication and details it will be in the regular season and how much it will be built to confuse in the regular season? No. To your point on that, not necessarily there. And doing it against backups is certainly worth noting, but I will say that at every point in time when he came in this preseason period, he's never at a point where he's even Steven. And this is where we go back to degree of difficulty. Like if he's coming out with the thirds, he's coming out against the twos on the other team. And if he's coming out with the fours, then he's got against the other threes of the team. It's very rare where he was 4 for 4 there to that. And really, I would say that whatever help that was giving to the other side of it on the performance there last night, the weakness of the depth, the weakness of those four stringers for the Chiefs, it kind of got offset by all the pre-snap penalties and the holding calls and the stuff that was outside of his control that was causing the offense to just absolutely live behind the sticks. And a lot of that stuff was consistent going back to the Titans game too last week. And so it's one where this outlook on Milroe is, as always with quarterbacks, it's never easy. And this particular one is pretty murky as well within it, because there is plenty of valid criticism. There is plenty of wonder about the stagnation of growth, but then there is also growth. And then there is also, hey, what if the offensive line was half more functioning than it was as far as the penalty situations go? And also going back to what kind of running game did he have to work with? Zero. So you got, bad pass protection, penalty machines on the offense, no running game to work off of. That makes the quarterback, regardless of how that quarterback's playing, that just in itself makes the quarterback position so hard to play. But we got to see that progress. And the second thing I would say, the two parts on being the final game went a little bit forward there, Nolan. And then when we hear, I think, about the reports from Bryce, this guy's offensive minded in his outlook as a coach. This is how he's driven. And he knows what he's talking about as well beyond that. So when he and Dan and Mookie are saying that what we saw in Milroe this year in training camp, when we went there in person, looked different. And they spoke to it on the syndicate this last week, specifically to the exact ways of what they saw this year versus last year. We were at training camp last year. We saw this. We're at training camp this year. We saw this. And so I sort of simplified it down in the syndicate to this. And that's what I think is that you go last year, OTAs, training camp, things in a little bit of rough shape, things in a little bit of a he's in work in progress. Mechanics are all over the place. Some good throws, some big time throws, but very infrequently versus all of the stuff that's still kind of a little sloppy. Preseason games last year, Green Bay fits to that performance when he gets in there. Looks lost, looks not ready, looks like it's a long ways to go. Then we get to this year. OTAs. Reports are still progress isn't quite really coming along. There's still some stuff here that's got people concerned. Then we get to training camp, and in alignment with the Syndicate boys, looks better. A light is starting to come on. The dimmer is turning up. Get some good days in practice that he's performing and showing out and looking really good and dynamic. But then we get to the preseason games, at the first two at least. It doesn't show up. It's not there. Kind of like strange. Why would he be good there and then this suddenly turns off coming to the game? Shouldn't the carryover occur? And so this is the confounding, maddening part about the progression of a young player at the toughest position to play in the entire sport. It takes time, and it's not stair-stepper, and it's not just I get to see every game something new come up that he's grasped or understood. It's something to where the stuff can kind of be in fits and stops and starts, and you can be one step forward and a step back, two steps forward, then another step back. But that you do see that the improvements happen on the training camp, but then finally the preseason game gave us a feature of that. Tells me that you have patience here and you give it more time to develop. And if it takes 3 years, that's fine. You know, if we're seeing more improvement next year, and now we get to OTAs next year, and now for the first time on his third OTAs, he's actually doing good in OTAs. He's looking ready to go. The improvements continuing forward there. And then in training camp, he's lighting it up even more. And now in the preseason games, the consistency factor is really coming forward, and he's putting some good tape out there. That's the part, and I'm as guilty as anybody on it, that I think we'd be smart to give ourselves time on these quarterbacks for that development cycle to go through its full maturation. Because there is always an understanding, too, that there's a human pull, a human psychological tug to toss these guys away, especially when there's confirmation bias about an original opinion you might have had of them. And that's the part I think we have to fight against, because that's now then not looking at necessarily the true blue vision of the player and where they're really at, where the snapshot is of them right now and where they stand. So glad he got that last finish off to where it wasn't another game like we'd gone through the first two. It was much different. Really good performance, some really nice high-level throws, much more decisive, much better ball placement, and much better decision-making, much better use of the legs. Variety things looking better there. So we'll have to give it now the year, probably, till we see him back again. But that's the part to next key on Jalen, if it is going to be another year, is into OTAs, do we start to hear some of that performance coming forward when it didn't in the prior two? Appreciate you, though, Nolan. Thank you, man. And thank you for the clarification. I agree 100%. John Naylor, thank you for the $2 donation. He says, if Aaron came here, Jake's head would explode. Oh, especially you already got Cooper Kupp here, putting in work. You know what I mean? And I'm ripping the hell out of him about taking their players every year. But yeah, he would. I think he'd be apocalyptic. His head literally would go red, and it might burst if that happened. How could you let this happen? Oh. Especially like Aaron's like, just release me so I can go where I want then if you guys aren't going to pay me what I'm earned. If you guys don't think I'm worth it, then just let me go to where I can go where I am going to be worth it to them. Oh man, that would stick in the fan base a little bit tough. I'd get it right here in the gullet. Jeffrey, thank you for the $2 donation. M's lost another real doozy on the defensive air. Tough year, man. We've had some brutal Mariner years. I think it's worse when you have expectation. It's worse when you expect. We're talking about progress. See that progress with this young team. You can see young players coming forward, good farm system, money for the most part spent in the right way. Just hasn't worked. And it is frustrating. And there's things to clean up. I come back to this. This team's got to remember about the stadium they play in and the type of baseball they need to play within it. How they need to win. That 115 win, 116 win season gives you a great blueprint to work off of. They sometimes deviate from it, though. You know, they get a little bit rough around the edges in remembering that blueprint. But the future's still bright. There's a way which this lockout ends up kind of working in the Seattle Mariners' favor. If it ends up being that a Cal Raleigh and a Julio Rodriguez have a year off to kind of rest their bodies, and it goes that way, maybe not the worst of things for those guys. come back fresher and renewed, and your farm system a little bit more further progressed along. Now you got a salary cap in place. I'm just saying, you know what I mean, Jeffrey? But I'm sorry, man. I've watched a few of them. It's been a tough watch. And it's one thing if you swing and you miss. It's one thing when you pitch and the guy hits it out of the park. It's another thing when there are base running errors or Julio throwing a ball into the stadium with one out or a lack of defensive prowess on a team that should be built to the defense. Mumbles. B, you might want to have to move the scoreboard or something, since when you have super chats, it blocks half of it. And you do tend to keep them up for a decent bit. Just something I noticed yesterday, but couldn't chat. Oh, thank you for the update on that, man, Mumbles. And I will try to see if we can move it into a more, maybe we'll go top side, because there's plenty of room above my head there, you know? So I'll try to move it to there. Great suggestion on that. I did notice that as well. I'd forgotten a little bit about it after I'd noticed it, but yeah, I'll move more to the top side once we get to game 1 there against the Patriots. Thank you for the note on that, man. I appreciate it. Hopefully that's going to progress too. I'm working with that guy that does the scoreboard there, and that we're really going to try to progress down the line with this to have it be a really dynamic scoreboard into the future, and be able to post some stats through there and have it kind of roll through in that way. So it's a work in progress there that we're kind of trying to bring along on that. But thank you, man. I appreciate you, Mumbles. Mumbles all is well with 46 months. I said 46 months. Hold on. 46 months as a Hawks Nest member. How about that? My man working his way through half a decade here. Half a decade, Mumbles. Not too shabby, my man. Thank you for your long-time support here. It's always good to have you in the house, too, as well. 2, Rob Rams of Darnold go $2 million past what they offer. To Rob. Oh, to Rob, Rams of Darnold go $2 million past what they offer. Hey, I'll bring in whatever at that point. You can add Aaron Donald, and I know a lot of you out there think that he's going to be a bit of a shell of himself or something that's going to be heavily diminished from what he was formerly. I just don't myself see that. I think that if that was the case, and it is possible it is the case where he's that shell, I don't think he comes back if that's the point, if that's the case. If he's raring to go and the Rams were in some contract squabble with him because they're pushed up against the top of their tippy toes as far as their cap goes, I'll make it work. I'll go well past 2 milli, Mumbles. You know what I mean? I mean, holy crap. The defensive lines that you could trot out. You talk about the Avengers. That's some heavy artillery right there. But appreciate you, man. You guys are so kind. So many long-time members, so much long-time support to this channel. I don't know if I deserve all that all the time, but I appreciate it nonetheless. You guys are all kind for all of that. And big shout out to, we got Brian Myers and David Wilson. I'm going to give a couple of shout outs here to a few folks. Brian Myers and Kevin out there. Kevin Jones sent me some cool stuff I'm going to show you guys here in a second. I'm getting some cool swag. Got to show you guys this one thing first, though. So I got a bunch of mail today. And so big shout out to Brian Myers and Kevin. We're going to show some of the stuff you guys sent here into the mail to the stream. And I got to Brian's going to have me rejiggering my whole backdrop. But this is one of the weirdest things I've ever received. So this, it's cool. I dig it. Shout out to Athlete One. So I got asked to vote on awards last year. And it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I voted on the awards, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to send you something." Okay, cool. I mean, you guys don't. All right, you don't have to buy image. This thing weighs like 15 pounds. It's got I know it's hard to see, but it's got my name inscribed. You guys see that? What the hell? I mean, this is like, that ain't plastic, guys. That's pure glass. I thank you to Athlete One. I mean, it is cool. I now have, if somebody breaks into my house, you know what I mean? Cracking skulls, this thing. Can't stab you, but my gosh, huh? Just for voting on an award. Phoebe, thank you for the $2 donation. Did you see the JSN and Jamar route video, Brando? I did, yeah. Some incredible feet. And JSN is the stop and start and the keeping his levels evened. You know, Brady was kind of one of the original guys kind of talking about that big time last year. That he's got that kind of cross country skiing sort of motion that's just impossible to read. And can combine it then with, it isn't just that he runs the great routes because his levels never change. That's one of the significant things about him. So, of course, part of what makes him great and what makes all great players is that they're putting a variety of next level things together in order of what makes them great. And that stop and start that you see with his feet, which is a skill in itself as a wide receiver. A lot of guys will be like, you know, Coyote and Roadrunner, where Coyote's got his feet and he's like, you know, tippy tapping his feet trying to come to a stop, and it makes that screech sound. And a lot of receivers are kind of like that when they're trying to come in and out of their breaks or stop or start. He's not that way. He can do so immediately. And then you have this gait that's absolutely even Steven and impossible to read. And in a stop and start ability on a dime, those go together really well. Add on in ball tracking and grade A hands and really, really great toughness too. And you're going to have a hell of a receiver on your hands. I mean, those are base skills for the receiving position that are necessities. If you're great at them, you'll be great yourself. But it's a very cool video. Yeah, those things his feet were a blur in that little video. I definitely would recommend people go check it out. Him and Jamar Chase kind of working out in the off season. Thank you, Phoebe. Appreciate you for that, man. You guys are very kind in all your support. Let's check in with the chat. I'm hole 9 waiting on a slow train golfer. I swear I've seen Jason Myers out here today. Better be on there kicking in a dungeon right now. Broderick Jones to Dallas for a third, fourth swab. Ooh. Boy, Broderick Jones' star has fallen. Not that it was great, but a highly drafted guy. That's weird. Realize, how does Arnold escape 8 felonies? What does that? If he gets any conviction, he's done, right? Probably, yeah. I think that we got to be careful. I mean, we don't have to be careful on this, of course. I mean, there's plenty of people in the court of law that say, and the court of speculation, that'll be like, look, I'm not a court of law, and I can come to an opinion and say that I think on this. I'm hesitant on just sheer number of charges for that to carry weight for me. Obviously, the charges matter a little bit to a degree, I guess. But even then, it's like, does the state ever put together extra charges just to try to make sure they can get some of the charges to push through on the bottom line? And is that then that all those things were egregiously done, or is this all part of a bit of the process to try to? Hard to say. It's part of why it's like I come back to, I got to have the court stuff in my mind through us, and let the court stuff play out, and then we'll go from there as far as what really happened and what didn't happen. I mentioned a guy like James Pierce. If I'm not mistaken, he had felonies and stuff initially that was thrown at him in the same way. Not the same kind of situation exactly, but some similarities as far as it being pretty. You read the police reports, you see your first blink of it, you're like, oh my gosh, and that guy's going to play, I believe, the majority of the NFL season this year. So I think that's the thing I've learned of this, is that sometimes what's initially put out there and what eventually comes down the line are going to be two different things. Shane says, why should Arnold be exempt list if he's proven not guilty? Well, this is where we get to, and again, I appreciate there'll be people on the other side of this for sure out there that'll say this is the way it should be. Football's a privilege, so there's some differing of opinions out there on this, admittedly speaking. From my standpoint on it, I'm a big believer in you're innocent until proven guilty. I think that when we start to buck against that and we start to go against that, that leads to some problematic, slippery slope type stuff that I don't like. What's happened in the NFL, Shane, is that 10 years ago, there's some players that were doing some real dastardly things and getting out of line and multiple offenders. And the players that were in line, that were good players, that were family men, that hated to see the sport having to get drugged through the mud by these outliers, went to Roger Goodell and they said, we'll willingly give up this disciplinarian fight that had occurred prior to that, where it was harder to punish these guys. You had to go between the Players Association and the commissioner's office to get to a common ground. So they said, we don't want this to be the case anymore because we see that this is causing problems. We'll give you, commissioner, full control and power to be able to do what you want to do, how you see fit. And it will not require a conviction. You can simply, we're giving you the authorization to punish these players just for being in suspicion of something or just for being arrested. That will be enough. Now, do I think that that's fair? I don't. But I also have to look at this and say the players gave this up too. They didn't have to give this up. They handed this over. And, and the commissioners kind of run wild with it. So, yeah, I don't think it should be, but it is the way it goes. And it's because the players took that approach. Neil Kosla will be Tarian's lawyer. Kosla family bringing in like one of those just crew of lawyers comes into the courtroom, all dramatic. We're taking over. Yeah, I'm with you, man. HHG, the Hawks won't do this unless they have some information the Chargers won't stick. I think that that's at the heart of this. I don't think that this is just Seattle kind of rolling dice going, well, we'll just see what happens in a minute. I think that there's something that they've gotten in as an indicator in this situation that the Chargers are not going to stick. That we're going to get to the end of this and it's not going to be 8 felonies or even 1 felony conviction. Ross, well, they stack charges like leaking logs on purpose. Yeah. It's just like when you go into the opening of negotiations and you ask for the offer that's even far beyond what you really want as a bottom line. You don't start with your low end offer, and it's just the way the game plays out in our court system sometimes. Thomas B, I'm getting super worried about keeping Meyer, especially after seeing him miss kicks last night. I hope Myers will figure it out, but I have my doubts. I think I have my worries here too. And if this team has a quick trigger on this, which they very well possibly could at some point or another, then I would understand why. I think that you're paying him a lot of money right now. And he had a great season for you last year. But this is a team that relies on their kicker making his kicks. And when you do look at Jason Myers right now, he's got a $5.35 million base salary on the season. So I can get through game one, cut him, and still save a couple $1 million on this season if he's not going to be in the place where he needs to be. I'm not looking to do it, but look, I mean, that was an atrocious preseason period. And it's hard to understand exactly why. Really hard to understand exactly why it was that out of line on some of this stuff. But hopefully he just gets it out of his system. Does Pumpkin care? Pumpkin always cares. Who gets the last receiver spot? Henderson or Foster? Or will they keep them both? I've got right now just Cody White making the last roster spot, and I have Seattle just keeping 5 receivers. If they keep a 6, it'll probably be Foster. I don't think Henderson did quite enough. Yeah, I don't have Vinette making it. Surratt will probably get stolen, man. Yeah. If you're running your roster typically, 2 quarterbacks, 1 fullback, 3 tight ends. Well, now you got the extras to be a hold on to these guys. But when you're pulling from every different tricky angle on the roster for extra roster positions on groups you wouldn't typically, you're going to have to pay the price somewhere. The toll must be paid. I think Neal might be starting on the pup, but we come back to when it comes to the injury situations, Horton, Neal, Mike McDonald, Bryan is very dodgy about giving us a good answer. As well, Brian. Thank you, man. I got a bunch of Brian stuff here too as well. Let's show off some of the goods. So I don't know, Brian, I'm going to definitely put the one poster you gave me, Brian, is going to go on the backdrop for sure. The large and the smaller one. This one's a little bit big, but I love it. So here we got a Steve Largent here, honorably discharged. Pretty cool. This will be one, Brian, that goes up just regular. Goes up in the regular spot, but I'm going to get your other one here on the backdrop. I haven't even, Brian, I just got your package before I went live, by the way, so I haven't even looked through all the good stuff. I'm still just turning through it all. But I love this one. This one's awesome. How cool is that going to look, guys? We're going to get this all framed up. Huh? Not too shabby, huh? A little Wheaties box, a Largent there. Very cool, man. Super good shape, too, bro. You kept this stuff in just awesome shape. So, Brian, this one's going on the backdrop. I'm going to get the frame today, and we're going to get the sucker on the backdrop for sure. For sure. Got a little bit of two. Check this out. I was getting stuff all day today. This has been awesome. All day today. Look at this. Look at this. All Largent cards, man. All Steve Largent cards. Ram fan sent me this, by the way, guys. Shout out to Kevin. Look at these. Climbing Mount Rainier. Oh, this is awesome. I love getting good stuff. I gotta re-put that together. But I got like 200 new Largent cards. So I've been a kid in the candy store this morning, guys. I want to say I was doing all prep work, but I ain't gonna lie, I was just going through the swag. Brian, you're awesome, man. You were next level with that stuff. I gotta just figure out the proper place for the Largent thing. I think we'll go to the side here and then move this stuff over. I think we'll go that route with it. But I love having the conundrum what to put all this good stuff, man. Appreciate you, bro. I think they're going to be pretty committed on the fullback usage, Martian. I do. And I hear what you're saying on Spoon. He's definitely got the ability to play inside, outside. I do think that the teams really wanted to find that opportunity to be able to get him on the outside and feeling like that's where he's at his best. Like I can do slot stuff and intermixing me a little bit in there is fine. If you need me to start games to fill into me and Mawari, okay. But if we can keep him to the outside, that's more, I think, to the ideal from a Hawks perspective. Like I think he can be more dominant as an outside corner than he can be dominant as a slot is the way I guess I put that. And if you do have a question for me, by the way, just if you can put B, Hawks Nest, Brando, lets me know when you guys have something directed at me. I kind of wonder if Myers was experimenting or something, but I just would wonder too if like you do that practice field, you're doing that in games, but maybe that could be something there. It's like baseball, you're working on a secondary pitch. I haven't been all that impressed with my Bo Stevens. Boy, I would if you get a chance, Rock Chalk, go look up on Twitter right now. It's making the rounds. I'll try to put it up on I'm gonna try to post it on my channel too. He's got a couple of pancakes he dropped on Chris Jones last game, and he's put some good tape up this preseason. It's not been perfect, but he's not ready to ascend to starting over the top of Bradford, but there's been definitely some encouraging signs. Hey Brando, what's your fantasy football strategy? My strategy tends to be running back heavy early on, and then tends to try to target the quarterback that I know is going to give me productivity somewhat early. I do tend to put the receivers in a little bit more. Like I'll grab one somewhat early and then come back to it. Tends to be my strat. But I would say Gaming Taco. I don't know if I'm the best guy for fantasy football strategy. I don't tend to win. So Idleman, is Jalen Milroe making the 53? Yes. You're right. The Dolphins did move viewers to the Jaguars, and so that does technically potentially open up a spot there, for a Milroe there. But I just don't know that there's much trade value for a Milroe. Like you're not going to want to give Milroe away for a 6th rounder at this point. And so if you're not getting the max value, you just roll with him for another year on the roster with the hope that you can increase that value over the next year. I have another year through preseason games, and he looks better, and now his value gets to be more inflated for. But I think if John had an offer on the table that was reasonable and he liked, he would do it. But he's not just going to give him up for nothing, He's on the roster, essentially, Idleman. Three guns deep, Milroe would have had almost 300 yards if not for number one lack of catching ability. Yeah. He played really well, man. And a variety of high-level throws. I mean, it's cool that you ran your offense normally. You did not put training wheels on yesterday in what you asked him to go. It was under Steph. It was drop back under center, play action under center, back turn, rip back around, find the man. A bunch of throws that were pretty difficult throws, So he was impressive. How's it going, Chris? Yeah, the penalties and drops were awful. Definitely was not being given. I think at the preseason of Jalen, the degree of difficulty angles got to be kind of baked in. They did sign Terry Arnold today, Metal Dragon. Yes, sir. He goes right onto the commissioner's exempt list. Furlong says, I think JJ Watt. That's a good reference. Has something left in the tank. Let's get him out of retirement. It's a great Shane Gillis bit with JJ Watt from Tires. Hey, look, it's JJ Watt. Staten says Diggs won't be on the 53, I think. I guess we'll see. We'll see. Feel like he probably did enough, but yeah, it's when you get to the last of the roster spots, the back end guys, the last of the depth, it's fluid. Brandon, with all these teams like Steelers and Ravens, other teams too making trades to make their 53, can you see us making trades for a young pass rusher to fix for our 53 tomorrow? I think it's definitely possible, knowing especially that John tends to be as active as any general manager at all times a year, that he'll be in the mix and not shying away from. I don't know if I see the trade situation that jumps out to me that makes sense in the direction that could go. But it is absolutely why I'm going live tomorrow, Abdi. And I'll be live as soon as the cutdown comes, is because there's going to be interesting news throughout the league going down. And there very well could be a situation where Seattle jumps and is willing to do something, and let's also remember they're still sitting on $20 million of cap space, depending on how the final numbers of the Leonard Williams go. And Leonard Williams' new contract might very well even lower down some of that cap hit for this upcoming season. We'll see. So, he is also sitting on ability to not be hindered by the fact that he's got like no cap space or anything to pull these moves off if he wants to as well. So, yeah, I think it's in play. Chris is not feeling Milroe's performance at all. He's thinking it'd be an F if he'd have to start. Never know on that. Definitely glad we don't have to test this one out. I'm happy about that part of it. Glad to be rolling with just Darnold and Locke as we go forward this season. Tuleo, what do you think we can count on as an ETA for Terry Arnold? I think a 10 to 12 game suspension feels what the Seattle's anticipating. It's a blind guess, admittedly, but it's also based a little bit on historical norms and how the commissioners treated other players in somewhat of another situation. Charlie Unicorn says Henderson and Foster will make the roster. Ooh. Bold statement. I love it, man. Can we get Milroe on special teams while he's developing? Get the money's worth? That's one of those things where he's on the active, or he'll be on the roster, but not active outside of a game day emergency quarterback situation. So in short order, short form, no, would be essentially the answer there. But as much because you don't have to have him taking up a spot. You can put an actual special teamer out there. Three guns deep, you can tell who made the roster. They didn't play most of them in the second half. Yeah, I think there's definitely a couple of guys on the team that was that way. I think some of it is you're also trying to do right by the agents that you've promised to some of these players and making sure you're giving them the run, because that was part of the whole sales spiel to talk them into coming to Seattle in the first place as undrafted rookie free agents. It's like, all right, well, look, if they don't make the roster, we're still going to put them in bright display for you to have them and given opportunities to go out there and make it at other teams, to put out some good game film. I'm expecting three guns deep. It's going to be a 2-game suspension for Puka. Yeah. Rams will be, Alaric will be 6 to 8. Second time offender here. But again, commissioner can be a little bit lack of consistent on this. We don't know what the rule is. We don't know what this will trigger this for sure. You know, some of that, the charges with Alaric have gone backwards since the initial thing went down. But the fact he's a second time dude can click in automatic stuff. So 6 to 8 for him, 1 to 2 for Puka. They should be they'll probably let them know of that in the next week of how that's going to go too, I would say. Charlie, the Mariners should take notes from the Seahawks team. They know how to run a tight ship, unlike the SS Mariner. Big facts. Brian Milroe doesn't have to impress any of us. The staff inside the VMAX is the only ones. He proved exactly what they wanted to see, that he's the third emergency quarterback who has improved. Well put, man. Well put. Yeah, baseball's heading for a lockout next year. Players don't want a salary cap. Owners want it. Man, it's an impasse. No word on Emmanuel Wilson or Julian Neal at this point to lay out. They're being very quiet on the injury situation. Yes, Aaron Donald is still under contract and still owed $30 million. And we're kind of having some fun joking three guns deep about him coming here. We're not being real serious. Charlie Unicorn, be any recent NFL trades surprise you so far? That's a good question. I'm going through my mind on my possibilities. Yeah, I think I have one, but that's as much because I don't think that there's been a myriad of ones that have been done recently that have had me kind of going, wait, what? Why are you going? Why are you going there? I come back to the Eagles trade of AJ Brown, which it's not surprising AJ is being moved, and especially seems to be there's some issues there between him and potentially Hurts, but that seeing that they're going to go for a slot replacement there rather than finding a true answer outside receiver replacement for him, it's kind of strange. That you're essentially it's kind of one of those things I come back to and saying that there's these teams in the NFC where it's like the Bears are this way, where it's like I can see more of you taking a step backwards this year through an offseason than see you taking a cumulative step forward. And for a team that's trying to be a Super Bowl contender, I don't think that that's what you want to be saying. So that's where and Makai's not necessarily looked particularly good this preseason. Doesn't look like he's well suited to be playing on the outside, even as a Z. I think that's one I come back to as much of you made this trade without having the ready-made replacement, and that guy's a kind of important part of your offense. Not sure I can kind of quite wrap my head around that one. I think that the Tavondre Sweat, Jermaine Johnson trade was also another one that just didn't make any sense to me. I know maybe Tavondre doesn't fit as well for Solid's defense, but been a good player for them. I don't think Jermaine Johnson is going to do much for the Titans. Hawks Nest, what is the scariest book you've ever read or movie you've ever seen? What's the one with what was it? It was so I think in the modern history, 2018's Hereditary is pretty freaky and disturbing. I don't get as like scared per se, but from some very like it's hard to kind of move me with all the horror movies I've seen in my life. So that one was pretty like I'll never go back and watch that again because it was pretty disturbing. I'd have to go back to more of when I was a kid though, you know, seeing Friday the 13th at a way too young of an age, and that like or not Friday, yeah. Not Friday the 13th, but the Nightmare on Elm Street. That was the one. Watched them all. But that was the one that messed me up. Freddy definitely got into my head a little bit as a youngster. Scary book. Boy, I don't know. Never really got too much. Like I like reading books, but I don't know if I ever really got too much into the horror book genre. Really, you know, like scary books. I've certainly read some Stephen King stuff that can be a little unnerving. You know, I read The Stand back in the day, and a couple of his other offerings that are pretty rough. But never really was gravitated too much towards the scary books. Don't do much horror movies anymore either. Jeff Darnold coming back would be like Cam in his holdout season. He'd start slow, and by the end of the season would be like he never left. I could see it. I think it'd be a problem if he's on that team at some point or another for us, especially when we play him at the end of the season, to your point. There's a clip you can find Chalele up online if you look X or YouTube of GSN and Jamar working out in the offseason together. No one sent him a Griffey card yet? I haven't gotten my Upper Deck Griffey card yet, sadly. No. Not yet. Appreciate you, Brian. I'm going to be pondering today, Brian, all day. How am I going to... I got to get the puzzle pieces all together. Good problem to have. And by the way, guys, when I ever try to tell you guys how tough... Whenever I try to tell you guys how tough Steve Largent was, and I try to tell you guys maybe one of the toughest players you ever seen in your life, look at that elbow. Look at that elbow. Just rub some dirt on it. Walk it off. Brando, you know what obsolete are? I do. Are you saying that there's maybe some magical properties that have been associated with this? Have I brought a demon in my home, Kendricks? Have I brought a demon in my home? Do I need to go get some sage today? Freaking me out. Dude, I'll take a vampire out with that thing, man. I'll be staking all day long. That's my zombie weapon right there, you know? Headshot. 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 Just over there.
Target neutralized. Target neutralized.
Through the top of the skull. What? What I like about the roster projections is that they won't be projections beginning very soon. No, sir. No, sir. Jason wasn't the defensive player of the year. I didn't vote him for that. I think I got that. I got that one right on that. Shout out to Athlete One. How did defensive coordinators, defensive back coaches scheme to stop JSN, Shaheed, Horton, Cup, maybe Foster? It's going to be hard to do, man. I think you can only take away so many things defensively on a football field. If you're going to go doubling JSN, it's very hard to double JSN, and then we're going to, double get double over Shaheed over the top, and then somebody's running free open at that point, which obviously then makes it easier for you offensively to execute when you can start to count on that type of stuff. Which Indian dishes on the new VMAC menu will be the most popular? Chicken marsala. Charlie B, will the Hicks drop the bag of groceries while working at the store next week? Oh. Okay. Okay. Hey, felonies, that's light work. Light work. Yeah, Ray Lewis might have literally snuffed the guy out. Typically, when someone gets in front of a court, that court throws a charge at them for every potential interpretable charge. Stand in front of a door, get unlawful imprisonment. Yeah, they just sort of stick everything at it, and then a couple of these things will stick, which in itself is not exactly speaks to the nature of having a super strong case, does it? If we can use one or two of these things to kind of get through, well, what specifically was done egregiously that you can really prove? Well, no, we'll just throw out 8 or 9 things, and then one or two will get in there. Doesn't quite feel like an example of justice, but it's kind of the way this legal system works. Gaming Taco, Brando, build the best possible NFC West quarterback, but you can't use the same quarterback twice. Pass accuracy, arm strength, mobility, vision, toughness, build. You can't use the same quarterback twice. Okay. I would go arm strength, Stafford. Mobility, I would go Brock Purdy. I mean, the tough part is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 7 different options, but I can't use the same quarterback twice. There's only 4 quarterbacks in the NFC West, though. So I think you meant I got to use everybody, but I can use guys multiple. I got to a little bit there. So Stafford, arm strength. Accuracy, I'm going to give him that as well. Mobility, I'll go Brock. Vision will go to Darnold. Toughness, I would go to Stafford. Build, I would go to Darnold. If I had to give Jacoby one of them, I guess you could go Build for Jacoby. If you're forcing me to put Jacoby in there, I'll give him Build. But I got to use a couple of those a couple times because there's 7 categories you got there. OJ was innocent. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. That's right. That's what Johnny Cochran told me. Must be true. Josh Jacobs' career is most likely over. It's not good. It's a little dark out there in Green Bay right now. I'm old enough to remember Ray Rice dragging his girlfriend out of the elevator. Yeah, that was some tough footage. Not a good look. CRB, if we're already signing convicted players, Tucker's still out there. If Myers keeps missing, just saying. Well, technically Arnold's not convicted. So we're still in good shape there. Don't know what's going on with Oots, Jordan. It's been a complete mystery, and this is a little bit, I think, and it's understandable in all these questions with these injuries that are there for us to be asking them, but we have to also understand that Mike McDonald just does not want to answer these questions. And he is not going to give us the information until like the last possible second that he can hold it back. So they're working on something with them, and that it's hopefully resolve the issue in full. Uncertain of if it's going to be for a full season. Brian says, man, if they release Foster, I don't think he'll clear waivers. I was thinking they might stick him on the 53 to make sure that don't happen. Maybe. There's been some stuff with Foster too this preseason that hasn't been just glorious at every turn. There's been some drops, pre-snap penalties, so there's enough there too where that may be enough to not allow him, but you never know with wide receivers. When exactly will our team's cut become public? 3 p.m. tomorrow. I'll go live at that time, Misfit too. I think we'll be getting Brendan on today. I remember that old Steve Largent poster. I do too, man. I had it in my room, but I do remember it. I think I'll put it over here on my side wall, the big poster, and we'll get the smaller one on the backdrop. Jeffrey Thistle, thank you for another $5 donation, man. You're awesome. Just tremendous, brother. We need to bring in Aussie field goal kickers so Michael Dixon has someone to speak Australian with. Also, how high would you draft a quality field goal kicker? I would go to where you went with Michael. I would go up to a 4th round. If you've identified a guy that you have faith in, I think there's always a bit of a risk that you can go into that territory and come to find, I think what did the Niners do it with Jake Moody a couple of years ago. I think the Bears drafted a guy in the 3rd round, I think a couple of years ago. So, just drafting high doesn't necessarily ensure, but I think as well, you can come back to a guy like Dixon, who you put some fair for a punter, put pretty significant draft capital into to go get. And if you can't go get the Aussie style guy, which would be nice, and those guys can kick their ass off, that you can go, basically go get the best kicker in the draft in the 4th round. And then, so that may be the possibility to go with here into the next draft, especially when you're sitting on 11 picks. That's one way to use some of those extra picks, is just to go to kind of target that type of guy. But we also got to admit that it is every bit as hard as almost like the quarterbacks, where a guy can be a tremendous kicker in the college ranks. You put some draft capital behind it to go after him, and he gets to the pro level and he just looks completely lost out the chute. Good idea though, man, Jeffrey. Maybe a possibility there, getting back 11 picks. Maybe a direction you can go. Dogzilla says, how about RHPS's Frankenfurter for kicker? Nice reference there, especially very timely with Mr. Curry's passing. Rocky Horror Picture Show is his reference there on Dogzilla. And rest in peace to a man that great actor, made a great villain in roles, could just chew up the scenery. A guy in Curry that whatever he was in, be it a small part or big part, he was always going to make it better. It was one of those kind of actors where just his presence is going to lift things up a notch just on that basis alone. But he would have proven to be a hell of a kicker there, man, with those high heels, Dogzilla. Nolan, thank you for another $5 donation as well, man. I do appreciate you. Is Spoon a lockdown outside corner? My untrained eyes like his impact in the slot and run support and blitzing versus just chasing one receiver all day. So my feeling on this is kind of this. And I think that he is very strong as a slot player and probably one of the better slot corners in the sport when he's in the slot. I think that he is one of the best, if not the best, outside cornerbacks in the sport when he's on the outside, in the totality of what he brings as an outside corner. Remembering a little bit with this, Nolan, that a lot of the rushing attack and outside zone has a lot of basis upon attacking the outside corner in run defense. So to be able to take a guy like Eamon Wari, that is going to be an elite run defender for the slot position, and then to take an outside corner in Devin Witherspoon and make him an elite defender as an outside corner, basically breaks a lot of the rules of what offenses are trying to do to isolate defenders and give their running backs the chance to be able to break those big runs. Is he Deion Sanders in that, he's going to get a ton of picks and be draped in coverage at every turn? No. But is he really good in coverage? And as good as anybody else. I don't think Gonzalez is far superior to him as an outside cover corner. I don't think there's a guy in Stingley that's far superior as an outside cover corner. And you go, well, I saw him give up some catches here in the Rams game to Puka. Okay, he gave up some catches to the second best wide receiver in the entire sport. Like I would just say that if we're going to hold him to that standard and say that, well, that needs to ding him down as an outside corner. Do we ding down Derek Stingley when JSN absolutely gives him the business last week against Houston? I think he had a couple touchdown receptions, or Terrell for that matter, when JSN did the same to him. Great player on great player is going to lead to somebody sometimes winning. It's not always just going to be one singular dude. The last two plays in the conference championship game offensively for the Rams, where you saw Witherspoon walking his guy down and not giving an inch. Yeah, that's to me a lot of what he brings to the table. I think his value comes in being the complete player that he is, and that he can play a variety of different positions. He is a fantastic corner guy. He can play zone, play man. He is as elite as it gets as far as a run defender, getting off blocks, doing that type of stuff. You indeed, to the heart of your question into this, Nolan, you've got to appreciate the fullness of Woolen's game rather than the isolation of outside corner cover guy in what he brings. But he brings all that stuff. And I think to try to kind of prove this out in my belief on this, he was the highest graded corner in the NFL last year. Devin Witherspoon had his highest graded season when you finally moved him from the slot where he's really good to where he can be on the outside where he can be great. So that would be my one place to try to prove my case on this. I know it's just PFF on this stuff, but it fit into my eyes as well as what I saw from him on the field, and that he had a better graded year because he can hold up in there, but he's also a bit of a slider guy. And asking him to be in there and play like a linebacker at 90 pounds consistently is not maybe the best use of him in trying to keep him held together in the long term as well. It's a lot different when you're rocking the Imanwari out there, 6'4", 230. A little bit of a different situation one to the other as far as their ability to kind of hold up on that type of stuff. I do appreciate it. It's a great question as well, man. I need a Somdom middle finger poster. I do. That would go hard. Ivy destroying Trey Smith has me rethinking him already. Powerful dude. And that's with don't forget, Misfit, that's with a club on his hand. Nice collection of cards. Yeah. Kind of, it was a Ram fan. I guess grew up in the Pacific Northwest that sent it to me. Kevin was kind enough to send it my way. Shout out to Kev. Amazing collection of cards. It's very cool. I got to get it put together in a nice little book. I'm gonna have to get some. I'm gonna have to give it the TLC. Mozzie Uso without the tattoos. yeah. Mozzie Smith's never been able to realize his upside. Veterans in crisis. If you're a veteran in crisis, please call 988, then press 1. You are beautiful and loved. Thank you for your service. Oh, what a kind message there. I believe the Terry Arnold move is a good move. It costs you nothing. He is on a vet minimum contract. He is now under 2 years of club control. If even in the worst case scenario, this is going to be a whole year thing where he's out, you get to still have him come back next year as a guy to bring into the mix on that cornerback room. So there's just really little downside. You gave up no draft capital. He costs no monetary money that's going to hurt you as far as cap goes. I think it makes a lot of sense. You're looking for market opportunities and buy low to get some high functioning play. And that's what you're doing right here. Hey, Josh, Juice played like 50% of the snaps when Fleury was coaching the 49ers. Yeah. Thank you for that. So that's indicative of exactly my point to this being that you're going to have a fullback on the field here where Lampy is going to make this roster. I don't see it as being Brady Russell's the guy to take those snaps. Might be wrong on this, but I feel like that's the way this is kind of leaning based on what we know about the Niners situation, this offense, how these guys want to operate with the personnel. Terry Arnold deal got finalized today, Nicholas. Today. Addicted Brandon, good to hear there's at least progress happening with Stevens. Was starting to sound like he was going to be a total bust. Oh, he's looking good. Looking good. Grant, there's our Hawks Nest. Hope all is well. All's great. Did you have any take on the Finns trading Quinn Ewers to the Jags for a future 6-rounder? Man, 2 years back, he was projected first round. Say it. Go Hawks. Well, anybody that knew me with Quinn Ewers knew that was I knew John had enough fondness for him, and I didn't like the fact that John had a fondness for him. I didn't want any part of Quinn Ewers. It was interesting to watch people gas us up to the nines last year and trying to talk this guy up like he was going to be part of the Dolphins' long-term plans, and now they're moving him for a 6th-round pick. It's been a new sport that sort of has emerged in football. I think it's with all these clickbait folks and people that have to draw eyeballs on engagement, where everybody's trying to go over the top of any bit of quarterback play in the preseason and try to like, this means this and that must mean that, and it's like they will just go over the top. So he's an indicator there why you want to be hesitant to do that and overreact to those preseason performances from quarterbacks. And also, I got him right. I looked at that guy's stat 2 years out of coming out of college and said, this guy ain't it. He ain't it. He's not an NFL quarterback. He's not going to make it happen. And now he's being traded for a 6th-round pick from a Dolphins team that would have had every opportunity for him to ascend there and become the starter. So another quarterback outlook I nailed. Nailed it. B. Argles. The Hawks Nest. Between the offense and the defense, which side has the most obvious issue? I don't think that there's an issue on either side of the ball, B. You're coming off of a Super Bowl winning season. You're coming off a season where you had the best scoring defense in the entire National Football League and you had a top 5 scoring offense. You returned almost everybody on both sides of the football. You have questions a little bit about Fleury and the play calling, but I think it's more of a soft question than it is a hard question because of all the guys you're returning, number one, and then number two, of all of the staff you're returning on that offensive side of the ball. So I don't think that there's really an issue on either side of the ball. You have built strength to the starters. You've reinforced the depth. You have continuity and cohesion that's going to be fully at play on both sides of the ball in a major, major fashion. No, I think there's no issue. When if you have a top 5 scoring offense, top 5 scoring defense, I don't think that there's any obvious issues that are there at that point. I think you're getting the job done. It's pretty hard to get number one. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough get. Desagaku Diggs just needs to learn to tackle. Well, you got the full meal deal experience from Diggs in this first game. You know, they throw out that little screenplay early on, right out the gate in the first drive, and he completely whiffs on the tackle. And by whiffs, I mean almost doesn't touch him. But then he comes back and gives you the incredible ball skills on the interception. That is the Trayvon Diggs experience right there. It's a roller coaster. It's a ride. There's some good. There's some bad. But it's going to be fun. Charlie Unicorn Brando, I would take former Jets defensive tackle Maze Smith as a depth defensive tackle over the dumbs on the back of the roster. Too many guys get pushed around. Maybe a guy that you could stash on the practice squad, to your point, Charlie. I think the team's probably going to lean to a little bit more of a Brandon Peely at this point over Mozzie. I think Peely's probably done even more than Mozzie has in his little bit of selective starts. But to your point on this, Mike McDonald has a lot of understanding about Maze. He coached him out there at Michigan. So that's one of these places where I can fall back in a line and know we've got kind of insider info on this guy and his outlook on it, and kind of trust in that. Where if he brought it in, you'd go, okay, Mike's familiarity, I get it. You know, he knows what he's got in this guy and what he can bring to the table. It's been kind of surprising that he's not been a better pro, but I would lean back in that way of it, of just whichever way Mike wants to go. And he's been on the market prior to this for not a lot, and McDonald has not done much to kind of jump. So that seemed to be somewhat telling in itself, but we'll see. Telios, court of public opinion weighs heavy on league image. True. That is true. I just think the tough part for me in that comes down as far as kind of determining then, okay, we're going to punish without conviction. My issue to that comes down to like how much of the public opinion is really affecting the bottom line of the NFL at that point. Are there less eyeballs watching? Is there a single less dollar of profitability put in your pocket versus the guy that you're prematurely punishing, who's now going to be out game checks, who's now going to see some of his career cut short in some manner or another because of this decision? And that's where it's just, to me, on that, where you have the potential of an innocent man getting punished for the sake of this league image, which may or may not even be kind of a thing. Like, the league is such a steamrolling monster at this point that they can kind of do whatever the hell they want to do, and it's not really going to dissuade viewership, in my opinion. Joss, what is our weakest position group now anyway, if we're thinking about players to yoink at the cut down? I think you're looking at there's a few opportunities to upgrade on this roster at this point, especially with reinforcing the cornerback room as you have. I think if you look at safety, if you look at the fifth edge on this roster, those would be the two clear places that you could maybe do something. If a fullback were to kick free, that could be an upgrade over Lampy. That'd be another spot to look at, I would say. But it also kind of gets hyper-focused in on just kind of those three, because you got everything else really well set up, and I just don't think there's going to be something on the open market better than what you have at those spots. We get a fifth or sixth for me overall? I mean, maybe. I did not like the refs in this preseason, Patrick. It was rough. I hope those are not going to be the regular season calls. Henderson looked good, Brian. Yeah, that leaping catch he went up to go get was cool. He can sometimes have his hands fighting him a little bit, so. Show me some explosive yak, good hand catcher. I think he's definitely done enough to get onto the practice squad. What did they do at quarterback 3 now or later if they trade him? You'd go ahead and sign a guy to put on the practice squad as the emergency quarterback. But that's what it would become. It's not an active roster spot. It would be a Danucci on the practice squad or something like that, Brian. Where it's just a guy that's there to come out if everything goes to hell. The real asks, B, right? Case could be flimsy in limbo, or 2, testifying against him to avoid life, convince a jury. There's a group text with instructions, though not named. No charges qualify for pretrial diversion. Yikes. There's some murkiness to this. Everybody that's thrown at me that the guy's guilty says the same thing. They say 8 felony charges. And that's for the people that have told me that he's absolutely guilty and that this is what is Seattle even doing, and that this is no doubt that he's going to basically be thrown away and the key's going to be tossed away and he's never going to be let out, and he'll be in 23 hours a day without sunlight, and he'll be in a 2x4 cell. And I mean, they get into it and I'm like, well, hold on, just the charges themselves. I don't care if you give 25 felony charges at me. That in itself does not indicate conviction necessarily. And you talk about a couple of things in this that bother me. I've heard that his phone was stolen that night. It's going to make it hard to say that his phone and him texting this stuff out if somebody ended up taking his phone. Yet you have the 8 felonies, which felt like the prosecution right out the gate trying to drum up extra stuff to get a couple of things to stick, number one. Then the number 2 part of it being that you instantly, after this whole situation went down like that, have these 2 guys flip and turn state's evidence to then testify against Arnold. Like, you don't go through some exhaustive investigatory process. You don't pull through the evidence. You don't grab from here, grab from there. Keep those guys in the crosshairs for as far as the crimes that they've committed. You instantly get them to flip. And then how much sway do criminals' testimony have in a courtroom again? How does that usually work? Isn't there something like quality of witness or some kind of term of that comes into play for lawyers? I think that'll be impactful, especially if that's what you're leaning on wholly, is just that. Just saying, it's a little murky. I mean, it's a little murky. Dig it, Brandon. Are you guessing Locke and Milroe share equal number of backup reps with the number 1 offense now? No. Locke will get the majority because Darnold gets so much. There's only so much. There's very little remaining. And the only little bit remaining has got to go to the backup. See Lord of Bravos amuses how some people don't want Milroe around. He's a project that might pay out one day. No harm in keeping him around for the duration of a rookie contract. Agreed. Yeah, this isn't a pressing matter in that way. You're right. And it doesn't hurt you to go back to it's a little bit like the Arnold situation. You can afford to hold on to things that are sort of in development. They're not giving you anything right now, but they're going to develop hopefully, and they may never develop, but you can afford for that timeline to let it play out because you're set in other places and you're in a good position to be able to afford to be able to do it. It doesn't really cost you that much when it goes down to the bottom line. You're on it, Brian. All teams are going to have 3 quarterbacks for the most part. You're going to want to have the emergency quarterback on the practice squad. Like you're playing with danger if you're just going to go with 2 guys. You get those 2 guys injured, you bring a guy off the street to try to learn the playbook on the fly. Like, that's not good. Chad, how you doing, man? I'm doing great, brother. It's good to see you in the house. Just talking a little bit of roster building and cut down days and having some good, interesting discussion tonight. I felt like it was Christmas today, man. People sending me stuff in the mail. Got posters and weird glass awards from Athlete One that I don't know what to make of. I know that they want me to put that in the backdrop, but I mean, I'm not putting that in the back. I'm not putting that in the backdrop. I don't even think that thing would hang on my wall. It is weighty. I'm going to do some bicep curls with that thing. Rams lose Stafford. Their season's over. That's very true. They probably call Garoppolo out of retirement. Jad, what do you think about Jalen Milroe in Friday's game against KC? I was encouraged, man. I've been waiting for just give me some. I'm a man that's not had a drop of water in 2 weeks walking through the Mojave Desert. You know, that's what I feel like watching Jalen here through these two preseasons that we've seen. And I'm desperate. Just give me a couple drops. You don't have to give me gulps. I don't need a gallon jug. Just give me a couple mere little drops to satiate me here a little bit. And Jalen gave me more than a couple drops. I thought his performance was very, very strong. He was more decisive than we've seen. His accuracy was and ball placement was better than we've seen. The willingness to use his legs and take the Ferrari out of the freaking garage was actually out there and on play. He avoided the mistakes and the turnovers. Even the fumble that got caused on the backside rush is not his fault. If you've got the chipper on that backside, you're anticipating that you're going to have an extra second to not have to worry about the backside rusher. Made some big time high level throws as well. These weren't just dink and dunk type throws. And then the really cool part about all of that went down was that it happened at the same time, Chad, that I think the degree of difficulty was turned way up. I don't think the performance of that offensive line was particularly good around him. I think you had to sometimes max protect just to give him time to be able to sit in the pocket, which cost him less receivers on the backside to be able to throw to. The pre-snap penalties were ridiculous from the offense. Some of them shouldn't have been called. I mean, they were just the officials out of pocket all the way. Where you're like, that's not a hold. That's not a hold. But the fact he could work around that, you know, that they were living in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 14, and yet he was still finding success. That's another encouraging part of that performance. Yeah, I liked what I saw, man. That's right. Cam was our emergency quarterback for a while. The thing to remember with that, though, too, Jeff, was if I'm not mistaken at that time, that's also before you had the expansion of the practice squad rosters. So if I want to say at that time, Jeff, it was like you had 6 to 8 practice squad guys that you could have on the roster versus what you can kind of have now. Banker says trade that makes no sense. Substation for Ohio trailer. There's going to be a couple of trades tomorrow, Banker, on the gut down day that are going to be like that. Hey, you want our trash? I mean, I do kind of like your trash does look a little bit better than my trash. It is. It is. I mean, we don't want it anymore. We're kind of looking at your trash. It's got a little bit of a perfume to it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's trash. Don't get me wrong. So is yours. Yours is too, but as well. We like kind of the look of yours a little bit. I mean, it's trash. It's pure garbage. Let me tell you. Okay, well, we'll give you our garbage. All right, we'll take your trash, but then you got to take our trash. We want your trash, but you got to take our trash. Yes, we want your garbage. There'll be that tomorrow, I guarantee you. Guarantee you. Trippiest movie I've ever seen was 2001 Space Odyssey. That's a pretty trippy movie. To lay up, good poll. I think of the one Alone at Night. Laugh out loud. Yeah, that was a disturbing one, man. And I'll say some of these directors we got now doing the horror stuff, it's like I start to wonder about some of these guys, you know, Talalep. Like there's like that guy that does the he's done the witch movie and he just did this, he just did the Dracula movie. Essentially, I'm like, I think that guy's maybe a Satanist. Like he's a little too much, straight from my books type stuff feeling, where you're like, I feel dirty watching this. Mick says, hey, Brandon, did you see what DK posted on his story the other day? DK was my favorite player when he was here, but that was pretty classless of him to post that guy that was just working his job. I didn't. The build, God, I'm gonna make a two-waist build. Making fun of a guy working, yeah, not a great look. Trying to be funny and, as I like to say in comedy, got to punch down a little bit. Guys out there grinding, not the greatest of looks there on that from it, But social media gets you in trouble. So these guys, feel they got to say stuff constantly, and it's like sometimes silence is okay. Not saying something every other minute's all right. All right. But kind of strange post, Nick. I'm looking at that going, what, huh? He, what would push him to post that? Brandon is soft ready at age 7 and had nightmares from it. It's real. I had a dad that was very hippy dippy, like let him watch whatever he wants to watch. Texas Chainsaw Massacre at 4? Yes. I grew up with one of those dads. He's a very fun dad, but there's also no guardrails. You know what I mean? The seatbelt's a little loosely fitted. Freaking sleeping in his doorway of his bedroom that night because I'm like, Freddie comes, I can just get over to dad. Scariest book is the one in the courtroom. Exorcist is a good one. That one still holds up too, man. That one definitely holds up. Poltergeist, yeah, good stuff. Yeah, the Friday the 13th, you're right. Those middle ones were kind of the best ones. It got off goofy by the end. It by King was pretty good too. Not sure if they made a movie out of it though. Yeah, I remember I read that one back in the day. Way back in the day. That was a good one. I haven't watched the new one. They've done like the new movie with the sequel, and then they did the show. Got a lot of run recently. I'll never put my arm down a storm drain for nothing. And that was one of the disturbing scenes in that one with Curry when he was playing Pennywise. He's got the little kid's arm and he's shaking it hello. He's waving it hello as it's detached. Bring the Bible me. Daniel, have you seen Jamal Haynes' UDFA Bengals run from yesterday? Go watch if you have. It's the best run of the preseason. I posted up on my Twitter. That was like crazy run. Yeah. I mean, you talk about a man possessed. Just, I'm not going down. I'm going to go get my tutty. That was exceptional. Ever brought out every move in the book, Daniel. I think the only thing he didn't do was a spin move and a hurdle. Chad says Mike McDonald didn't want to play Jadarian Price in any preseasons because he proved his speed and what he could do as a running back. So Mike McDonald is saving him for the real games. Yeah. I think it's telling when you get a rookie running back that gets no run in the preseason that he's doing things right in the background. Because you would tend to want to give him a couple of touches and a couple of carries. Some of it is them trying to make sure that he's 100% healthy because Charbonnet is not going to be ready for game 1. And get down to game 4 or 5, and if Price is a little banged up, then you'll have maybe a Charbonnet to kind of call upon to relieve him a little bit. But I think he's ready to go. I think he's going to hit the ground running and look really good out the gate, Chad, especially behind this offensive line and this offense in general. And it's going to be one of the big keys, of course, coming up against this Patriot team. It's how you won that Super Bowl in large part offensively speaking, and that found some consistent drives and really found the consistency on the back of Making some throws when you needed to from Sam's perspective, but staying consistent and running the ball throughout the whole entire game. Almost 1,200 people are getting cut by the end of August. Tomorrow, yeah. It's the fun part of doing it. It's why I like to go live on these days, Chad, tomorrow when it happens, is because it used to be 3 different phases, and it'd be like you have your first cut, your second cut, your third cut, but now it all just happens at once. So it's just pure chaos. Everyone will react to the 53 announcement, then it'll change the next day. True. Unicorn Brandon, got to go to work. Have a great weekend and go Hawks. Have a great weekend, man. Hope work isn't too long for you, brother. Appreciate you checking out the channel today. Juice, we signed Arnold, man. It's official. It is official. I don't know. Is he on the season-ending IR, Joss? Thanks for the note on that. I didn't know. I hadn't heard any confirmation for sure that he was on it. But again, it's been pretty hard to kind of find the information. Monterio's got some cool parents. I love his dad. He seems like a cool dude. Good guy. Be like if the Raiders drafted Ray Guy and Janikowski in the first round. True. It's kind of the equivalent now if you go with the 4th round guy. So I'll tell you what. If we do get, with the way these kickers are going, Banker, if we get one of these guys coming out of college that starts to be one of these 70-yard guys consistently, where he's getting it done in college and can actually pull it off like legitimately, it's like I can hit him from like 70% from back here. I kind of wonder if that would eventually cause one of these kickers to get drafted really, really high. Or a team just starts doing some advanced math on that and they're like, so we're in field goal range right after the kickoff. Bet. Lamb played last night. He did play last night. Thrill House, Brando, fun fact, Chris Carson's now running back coach for Redmond High School. Speaking of neck injuries. Oh, I love that he stayed locally here. It's very cool. Yeah, Dolly Parton passed too. Rest in peace, Dolly. Brought many a young boy out of adolescence into their young burgeoning manhood without even knowing why. Yeah, Lamb's got some stuff to clean up, Max. You're right about that. He's a youngster, though. It's him coming along a little bit. He is just still fairly new at the pro level. Kept using this. We'll be talking about it with Bryce next week a little bit. They're doing a little bit of stacked receivers to the field side, the open field side. They'll stack the receivers up, and then they'll put the 2 tight ends, or they'll put the 1 tight end fullback next to each other to the other side of the line of scrimmage, to the short field side, and then they bring the fullback in motion, kind of as a taster's choice between getting back over to the field side or just looking like he's going to come back to the field side, but then rerouting it back to the short side of the field where they're trying to draw some numbers there. But they went to that look a lot last night. Wu-Tang Live, football analysts worrying about potential growing pains with the new offensive system around Sam Darnold. I don't quite get it. I mean, I can certainly say that there's some question about Fleury being untested, but the part of this is that they treat this with that they don't, if you listen to their analysis on this, there is no parsing. And so if I bring on a new offensive coordinator, he's bringing in his staff. And in both there is going to be a question about him and a question about his staff. You bring in Shane Waldron a couple of years ago, got this guy Dickerson as an offensive line coach. How is he as an offensive line coach? Is he any good? Is he any good? So it isn't then just about the question of the guy and the play calling, but it's also the rest of the staff and whether they are up to snuff in getting the job done. We returned almost this whole entire offensive staff. And that's the part, I would trust in more of some of these analysts, to your point, Wu-Tang, their opinion on this, if they were, remembering to reference a little bit of this aspect of it. Because it almost seems like they want it to be the case more than they've really analyzed the situation and broke it down. Because if I've got that much carryover from starters on that side of the ball, and I have that much carryover as far as my defensive staff and it's really just the play caller per se that's being changed out and the OC at hand. I think that there's a lot more room there for that to be successful in general terms than to be looking at it as this roll of the dice. It could go either way. It's a great big mystery. I think that the way it's been talked about in that manner is a little bit of an overstatement. I just had dinner, curry in a hurry. Any relation? Relation. B, do the Jaguars have a ton of egg on their face taking Travis Hunter number 2? They could have had Abdul Carter or stayed and gotten Mason Graham. Yeah, especially when you consider that they gave up a future first-round pick to do it, Thrill House. Remember, that's what they had to do to get that done, is they had to move an extra future first. It's been a joke of a situation. I still can't figure out if they've decided yet whether they're going to put him full-time on one side of the ball or the other. I keep seeing clips come out of camp of him sometimes playing offense, him sometimes playing defense. You just sit there and shake your head and you're like, did you guys not learn your lesson last year? Like, put him in a spot, let him master that spot and go. You know, especially right now with your receiving core where you've kind of reinforced it a little bit more than it was last year. But yeah, it's a bad pick, and that's a young general manager out there that seemingly made a young man mistake with that Travis Hunter trade. And you could hear on the day that they traded for him, because part of them validating the trade was he was like, well, it's like we're getting 2 first-round picks in for 1. That's why we can give up 2 first-round picks for Hunter, is because like he's a corner and he's a number 1 wide receiver. Lockdown corner and number 1 wide receiver. That's 2 first-round picks right there. It's like, your math doesn't really math here. So we'll see how it goes, but it's not a good look on their part. Concierge with Nolan. Thank you for the, oh my gosh. 59 months as a Hawks Nest member. Thank you for that, man, Nolan. You are awesome. Woo! Almost the clean 60 there going, brother. How would you get Tyrese Knight more snaps? Ooh, I've got an idea on this one. I got my ideas on this. First off, I think we know for sure that they're going to utilize him in snaps off the edge. You are going to roll with 4 edges here on this team, Nolan, but then these are also 4 edges that are going to have some age to them. And a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence, you're going to manage that snap count throughout the course of the season. And some of these other guys as well. Say nothing of if there is maybe an injury and you come into games instead of having 4 deep, you're 3 deep and needing that one extra guy to round out the rotations. So he's that guy to be that 5th edge, I think. You know, you would work him in there, I think, as that guy to give him some snaps in that way and do some varied things with him, right? Like once he's in there at edge, you're not going to have him play the edge in the same way that you would have Fowler or Lawrence play the edge. You know, you're going to do a lot more of probably him looking like he's rushing prior to the snap, dropping back in coverage, spot drops to the flat, you know, picking up man coverage on the backs coming out of the backfield when you overload and blitz on the other side. You know, you'd be using him in that manner as an edge. So not necessarily just a normal typical edge within this defense, and certainly not a normal typical power edge, because he wouldn't be that. The other way I think you have the door to open on this is that Seattle really did stick fundamentally so thoroughly in nickel packages last year and was able to be great in that area of things. But there's absolutely a door here, in my opinion, to be able to bring him out in base situations, turn him into essentially a Sam linebacker or a 5th man on the line of scrimmage at that point, and then be able to kind of not do it every game, but be able to intermix it in as a counterpunch to offenses that they prepare for you throughout the week. We're anticipating nickel. Oh my God, they just came out here in base, and Okada went off the field, and Imanwari's now the strong safety here, and oh my God, they just got really big on us, and we weren't anticipating that, and we don't have necessarily a ready-made answer for this in the moment, on the fly. I would see that maybe you can find some snaps between those two to mix him in onto the field and find a way to utilize him. Mixes, thank goodness they're getting rid of the Pro Bowl. Seeing Sanders get in the Pro Bowl last year was a joke. He wasn't the only one the last couple of years that just made no sense. Agreed. That's a great part about this, is I had no part of wanting to watch that game anymore at all. And then the fact that this allows for the Pro Bowl metric itself to be better utilized, as far as I got a guy that's an 8-time Pro Bowl, 9-time Pro Bowler. How do I measure that now as far as in consideration of a guy that might be potentially a Hall of Famer? Well, I want to give it a little bit extra more weight if I know that it's not been watered down by there being 162 Pro Bowlers every year, which is how it was starting to feel. Power Eye with Mac, Hutch, Walt, Sean Alexander was great. Boy, was it ever. Love seeing the I formation come back. I thought its days were done, Thrill House. We're seeing it come back into the flow. Myers is a little bit of an issue right now, Jeff. Bit of a question mark. 59 months for Nolan. That is tremendous. Jeff with a note here. Very important one from Jeff. Thank you for this, brother. America's game, the 2025 Seahawks, premieres at 7 p.m. PST on NFL Network. So that would be 2 hours away. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. I did not know that. That is going to be much watch, you guys. Yeah, that's like the best. I agree, Brian. That's like some of the best stuff NFL Films does. Great note there, Jeff. Have you ever considered coaching at all? I have. I mean, I don't know if I played enough to be able to do it enough, and to teach it that way. But I've thought more and more as I'm starting to get older now into that gray beard phase of things where I'm starting to think about it a bit. If I get the time ever, I would love to do it. The Seahawks playing the Rams on Xmas Day goes beyond pissing me off. F. Goodell. Not a fan of it either. Like, really? You can't leave us Christmas? Like, NFL's they're so porky. Porky's too. Goodell screws the dollar. Come on, buddy. Ease it up a little bit. Banker Brando, speaking of business decisions, if you were in the hole and these players were charging at you, ranking 1 to 5, 1 being the business decision and 5 being this is going to suck. If you were in the hole and these players were charging at you. Well, I think the thing that I learned about back in the day, and I didn't play a lot of football, but the thing I learned about it was this, Banker, and it's true. If you try to avoid getting injured or you just try to kind of like avoid the hit, you're going to get smacked hard. Your best bet in football is always to go hard and just hope good things happen. And so I get in that hole. I'm going to lower that thing. I'm going to lower that thing and I'm going to drive it. And we're going to see who's standing when this is all said and done. Not saying I'm going to be the guy standing, but I'm going to give you all I got. So it's a weird sport like that. You try to avoid the contact and the business decisions. You oftentimes get it hurts more. B, I might have missed it. You got Foster making the 53? I do not. I think you can stash him away in the practice squad. I do not think he's going to be stolen. I think Cody provides a little bit more value as a special teamer right now, which is the most important part for the final receiver on the roster. Hey, it's true, Brandon. We don't really know the big picture there. Exactly. Case Keenum, yeah, it's been a while. He's been out of the news for a while. Jordan, thank you for the $5 donation. Appreciate you. The problem with people assuming based on current information for a court case is if he is found innocent, these people will still think he is guilty. It's very true. And I think you've seen some sensitivity from me over the past couple of weeks in discussing this situation because I get feeling from some people that they're very comfortable with that thought process. And, look, this is football and this is this, and I'm not trying to make something bigger than what it is, but I feel like we got to be very careful when we start doing the court a public trial thing. And that's, I've seen a lot of people more than willing to jump into that. And you can have an opinion, you can do all that, but like they come to certainty in their mind. It's not that they have an opinion. They have certainty in their mind that he is guilty because of this number of charges. And that to me is a dangerous, treacherous place to get into as far as a mentality goes. And that does to me lead us in the pathway of having people that get, are basically guilty, not by having it proven, but basically by the court of public opinion swaying things almost in certain respects. So, yeah, it's a new thing. I've been mentioning too, I think this is more of a modern thing than ever before because it isn't just a newspaper clipping anymore. Now you've got text messages. Now you have screenshots. Now you have CTV cameras, now you've got all these posts and you got all I know this guy over here and you got these people posting, I know this guy over here. And so you think you got the whole information, you got the whole story, but it's the appearance. It's not the actuality. And that's to where I find myself a bit sensitive on this getting older and understanding the way that this thing can go when you allow it to shift in that direction of basically mob justice. And that's what it is mob justice at that point. So going back to, again, like you say, I think the key on it is that why I don't like this is that if a guy like this comes out to be found innocent, he's lost games that he doesn't get to play. And maybe that is or isn't his fault. I think there's a lot of times that isn't necessarily their fault. If a guy's had it proven and it comes out to find out it's innocent, but he loses the games, should have lost the games, but we got to, public image and bop. That's to me where it's 3.5 years is now the average NFL career, shortening ever more so by the season, by the year. And we're going to rob these guys of their very finite amount of time to be able to make this kind of money. I feel like we should be hesitant to do that type of thing. Like that shouldn't be something you do as kind of the first poll, but as sort of the last item on what you want to do with that. But I will admit, Jordan, we're in alignment here, but there's a lot of people that do feel otherwise. And we'll say, well, it's a privilege to play in the sport. And you got to toe the line and do things right. Thank you for the donation, though, man. Jeff says the deal with the witnesses flipping only matters if they tell the truth and it's provable. If they lie, the deal is off the table. True. But we certainly know that there's plenty of court cases in history that have been pulled about by the width and the breadth of the prosecution's case laying on those witnesses as opposed to having the evidence as the fallback. And that they hope that will then be enough to carry it through. It's not all cases, of course, but but there have been plenty that's been that way too. Brian says it's amazing how polarizing Milroe has become among 12s. He's either God's gift to quarterbacks or a completely worthless scrub. Pretty shallow analysis. Yeah, it's the place I've been trying to fight to get to as well, right? And going, look, it does seem to have to, and it's not just with Milroe. I will say this is a little bit of a football thing where things tend to have to be of an extreme place one way or the other, and that you really can't get to the nuances stuff. And the nuance is where things live when it comes to this type of stuff. So I've encountered it as well. It's where I've tried to say that it's for the people that are being hard on Milroe, and nothing wrong with being hard on him or trying to be, hey, I don't see it here. The next thing doesn't have to go in tandem to that of throw him in the trash. It can be, I'm not seeing it here. And Seattle is still afforded to be able to wait that third year, to try to find that place where you can broach the gap between the two camps, Brian. You know what I mean? Like these two people are on either ends of that scale. How can I kind of find that compromise point? I think that's the compromise point. You have your outlook, you have your view, you're not seeing it wrong, but there's nothing wrong with giving it that extra year time frame. It's not gonna impede our roster to have Milroe on the roster for a third season and giving that extra time. And you never know, the light bulb might fully come on with another year of development in this program. He's putting in the work. We know that. He's out there working with Palmer. We know that. He's got some smart quarterbacks and players around him. We know that. Patrick, girlfriend's a Chiefs fan. We were disappointed neither of us got to be on top last night. I like it. You guys always bring the jokes. Game Talker Brando, what's your favorite item in the backdrop besides the Largent jersey? What's your favorite item in the backdrop besides the Largent jersey? I mean, I like my neon sign quite a bit, I gotta say. We got Brendan's dad made me that. The little Hawk's Nest metallurgy deal right up there, I think is pretty cool. Little custom piece. That'd probably be my number 2. Guy, how you doing, man? We just covered a little bit of the roster projections. Talk a little bit of Terry Arnold. Terry Arnold. Brian and B, have you seen Sinners? I haven't been able to quite I've seen some scenes of it. It hasn't really quite drawn me in. Some of it again comes back to as I've gotten older, just been less enticed by horror movies in general. Like I'm not as much drawn to them as I used to be. I don't know why either. I don't have a good reason. DK sitting, interesting. DK posted about a guy who's like stocking shelves and gave him a hard time about it, and people kind of drug him for it. Bill's got it. Milroe's a project with obvious physical traits. No hurry on him. That's it, man. Nicholas Brandon, it was my grandfather that let me watch Freddy. Man, if it was too young, it was too young. There's some scenes in that when she's in the girl's in the classroom and her friend's in the body bag decomposing, and you're like, ah, like there's a couple of them that are pretty tough on that. And the whole concept too, it gets you in your dream, it gets you in your sleep. That's very terrifying for a child. Victor Brandon, obviously I don't know your dad, but have to believe he was way more fun than my two Norwegian parents. My dad was definitely fun. There's no doubt about that. He's my dad kind of had like just be like would be the funniest guys you ever met. Like kind of that Robin Williams kind of energy to him. Like everywhere he is, he's got people just in stitches. But he was a lot of fun too. Grand Heiser Brando, you do Christopher Walken and Al Pacino impersonations. Do you do Tim Curry? I do not do Tim Curry. It's as good as I can do on Tim. I need a line of his from one of the movies. I forget. I gotta have a line. I can do a little bit of the vague British, but that's just vague British. It's not really Tim Curry. I am working on a little bit of trying to nail eventually a little bit of what's his name? Oh, Rickman. I've been trying to do Rickman for a while. He's a tough one, Give me the code, Mr. Tanaka. He's a hard one to go with. I wish I could. The British ones can be a bit tough to hit. Tim Curry's just very big and over the top. It's the key to doing him. Give me Taco Brando. Who got you into the Seahawks, and do you have any cool stories about going to a game or practice? Well, the story the mom likes to tell is that she used to turn cartoons on for me and really young, 3-4 years old, and put me in front of it and go, work on getting some chores done in the house and stuff. And she'd come back and without her even teaching me how to do it, I would have turned the channel to a football game. So goes kind of even back to that. I just got naturally, hooked in. Probably my uncle would have been the main guy beyond that would have got me into it. He was a guy that was receiver in high school, and he was a doppelganger for literally Largent. Like they looked just like each other, built the same way and everything. So, he taught me catching, throwing, all that other stuff for the most part. And he was the guiding force there. Rest in peace to Roy. Grandizer, Oxnard. I require the solace of the shadows and the dark of the night. Sunshine is my destroyer. Dark Legend, classic. Ridley Scott, classic. Tom Cruise, classic. Tom Cruise is an elf. I gotta check out the new Bill Hader one. Getting back to this, I got a kind of a backlog of horrors I haven't checked out. I probably should. 1984 is probably the scariest one. That is probably the answer, Patrick. Especially as with every successive day we live in this current world. Like, we're finally here, Serums. Opening game right around the corner. New York Hemer, what did everyone think of Jalen Milroe's night last night against the Chiefs? I think he was able to make more than the majority of the Hawk fan base feels pretty good about what they saw. There's still those that aren't in on him, but I think that we saw progress in general terms by the majority of us. Addicted Bob, listening to analysts commenting that Darnold's kind of like two whiffs at a burning pile of crap. Yeah. It's got nothing to it either. They hit the same points every time. I saw that the Steelers traded Broderick Jones. Man, they must have been disappointed in that draft pick. He's not been good. It's just been flat out not good for them. High pick, but other than being high pick, hasn't done anything with that team to make them feel like he's the answer for them. Definitely excited. Baker, 70-yard field goals, or a punter who has 6 to 7 hang time in the 60-yard bombs? I mean, either one. I think the one, I don't know if even if you had a kicker that could do that, I think that still would be a guy that'd go 4th round range, even at the best case scenario. But I do think a field goal kicker that could hit legit fairly high, could legit hit fairly high percentages on long field goal kicks would probably carry a little more weight. Did I get your dono? I might have been a little bit slow in acknowledging. Yeah, I got it. I just read it. I was a little bit slow on it. Robert, my brother in the house. Good to see you, Robs. A shout out to Uncle Roy. His uncle is well on that. I know I got it there, Jordan. I was a little slow on there, man. So my bad on it. But yeah, you said the problem with people assuming based on current information for a court case is if he's found innocent, those people still think he's guilty, and that's it. It's that they're not going to change if when it goes a different way, they'll just kind of wave their hand on it. And the people banging the drum, Jordan, they're saying he should be punished already and prematurely. Won't feel the least bit bad that they were part of those people that were banging that drum falsely. They shouldn't have been. And actually, maybe it was in the best interest to let the case play out before I start jumping into the phrase saying I know what happened when I have no idea what happened. Yeah, it's good points on your part, man. And I agree in full. Good to see you in the house too, my brother. Thank you for helping putting that thing together earlier today, by the way, bro. Lord knows I was never getting around to that thing. How about my brother getting 62 months? Just casually dropping his 62 months in the chat. Show him what's up. Let's go. Love you, bro. Making the Christmas game is a problem for me as I have a long-standing tradition with the Boxing Day cricket test match, which I never miss. Yeah, they're messing everybody's day up. None of us need this. Nobody, like we talk about, NFL does things that nobody's asking for, like their stupid rule changes this past week. It's like nobody's asking for that, But that meme where it's like nobody, the NFL starts doing stuff. Let's brag on 56 months. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Megan Hawk says, I am hard on Milrow, but after yesterday, I'm hopeful. I just want to see more of that before I believe I've totally changed my mind. If I'm wrong, I'll always own it. I think it's all fair. I think I'm in the same kind of place. I've been hard on him too, but when he does encouraging things, I'm going to say it's encouraging and it's going to build some hope in me. And I think it should. And that's with us, I think, truly being fair of the situation at that point, not being guided by biases, but just letting the situation unfurl as it will. Jordan says Sinners is like 7.5 for me. It's not the bad movie, but it's not amazing. I would watch it once. It's kind of the feeling I got to it. Like I'll get to it eventually, but it just doesn't have me kind of chomping at the bit to get it. I don't know if it's doing anything that's saying anything new, in this genre or in I mean, the vampire kind of thing has been like the zombie genre has been kind of just beat to death a bit. But some point I'll get around to checking it out, I'm sure. I saw The Fly at age 6, Exorcist at 5, and you wonder why I'm wham. Rest in peace, Tim Curry, Don Pardon. I'm the same, Megan. We came from a different generation. Ricky, hi, Brandon. With some teams making trades after the final preseason game to make a final edition before the season starts, is there a position you'd like to see we make a trade for? No, at this point, no. I don't think that there's really an edge trade to be had that stands out that makes sense. A safety would be something that we could soft target if there was a real upgrade to be had there, but I just don't think there is. I think when you're looking at making trades on cut down days, you're tending to look at guys that are back in the roster. This roster is really strong. This roster is really deep. You are going to have a hard time getting to the cuts that you have to make on this team, which speaks to how strong the depth is here. I just look at it and say that when you got a Super Bowl roster like this, there's less open spots to be filled in. And that when we're going to have to upgrade this roster, be it at safety or be it at edge, we're going to have to probably do it via a trade that's more around the trade deadline than it's going to be, than it's going to happen in the here and now. You know, you're more giving up like not max prices, but you're more giving up. You're either trading for like secondhand goods, or you're giving more closer to max prices than getting a discount if you try to make a trade right now. Through Owlsby, I highly recommend watching Widow's Bay on Apple TV. If you like those Stephen King types, and Lanterns so far on HBO is pretty good. I'll try to check out Lanterns. I haven't loved what I've seen from the stuff with the Lantern show so far. And that Lindelof guy, I do not like J.J. Abrams mystery box crap. Like, I really don't like that type of stuff. But Windows Bay, I've heard good things about. I'll try to check it out, man. Thanks for the recommendation. Always looking for good recommendations. Patrick's first scary movie is American Werewolf in London. Gave me anxiety at night. Now I watch it and laugh at the effects. I mean, considering the practical effects, man, they aren't bad. You know what I mean? And I think even if you took a kid that was at your age then, at their age now, and you had them watch that movie, I think it would freak them out. Because it ain't CGI. You know, it's really stuff they're doing. And that was when they were at the height of those practical effects as far as guys that had been working on it for years. And, you know, now it's not as much of a science because there aren't as many guys working on it, you know, because everything goes CGI. It's a good movie, though. Oh, we lost Peter Cullen, too. Yeah. Mad respect. They really do go in threes. Take care, Addicted. You have a good one, man. Bill says cancer's no joke. I just got out of the hospital after a month. My upper arm snapped and I fell. Sorry, one sec, Bill. I got allergies erupting here. Yeah, definitely. Feel the season change starting to kick into place here. My upper arm snapped and I fell. They determined I have multiple melanoma, which is bone cancer, 8 radiation treatments, and weekly chemo. I am very sorry to hear that, Bill. That is not good news, man. That is not good news. Well, do all they say. Make sure you're doing everything to the nth degree. If you do get a chance to, I'm hearing some good stuff on studies with. They're starting to do some early studies, Bill, and maybe to ask about is the what is the fendenzaball and the vermectin combinations being used in some studies for cancer treatments right now. Like they're running through some of these studies on that, and they've had some really good results. So if you get a chance, fendendaball and then ivermectin combo has been working for some people. So just give it a look in if you get a chance on that. Give it a look see out and about, you know, on that one. But Bill, you take care out there, man. Please do all the stuff they say to do, man. You know what I mean? And I hope you do get better out there. Sister-in-law's fighting pancreatic cancer. Ugh, that's awful, man. That's tough. Hang in there, brother. Grand Iser, Hawk's Nest, Brando, is there a celebrity when they passed away you cried? Just genuinely cried, like you lost a favorite aunt, uncle, etc.? No. No. No, it's sad, but I'm pretty stoic, dude, when it comes down to emotions and that type of stuff. It's just how I'm wired, you know. I feel my sadness internally. I deal with it in there. I deal with like every man. I stuff it down into the bottom end of my gut. I dig underneath the dirt, stuff it inside the dirt, cover it back up, and you never think about it again. That's how men deal with that type of stuff. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no, not really. No, nothing I can think of. There's some ones where it was a little sad, you know. People like, you know, come along that are lights and stuff, but not anybody in particular I can think of. I'm sorry, Bill. Hang in there, man. Hang in there. Glad you're getting treatment. Nicholas, thank you for 40 months as a Hawks Nest member. Sack prediction for Fowler, please, sir. Well, I appreciate that long time support on the channel. You guys are bringing out the multi-year memberships out today. I will go with 7 sacks on the year. I think it's going to be an honest to God rotation, and he's going to kind of just be peppered in there a little bit. So it's, he's not going to have the market opportunity to probably have 900 snaps even. He's probably a 500 snap guy. But I'll go with I know it's not sexy, man, but I'll do 7 sacks. John, I agree. The scary thing about the rule change is that they can potentially use it to control the seasons for certain teams. Yeah, they can. 100%. And last night was the greatest vindication of why this thing sucks. Because you have a guy that gets called for a head neck injury hit. He has a strike against him now. Not fair. His head was out of the hit. It was a clean hit. Doesn't matter. I mean, that's the thing, is that hit errs on the side of punishing the player. Not getting the call right. It says, no, we're just going to punish the player and then we'll figure everything else out back afterwards, right? We'll figure out whether or not we're going to fine him afterwards. But he's going to get the penalty in the moment. And I'm okay with that. But then when you're trying to then take that and then attach it, then weirdly, you're going to take that and then try to attach it then to this punitive system of strikes that you're going to get and carry over from year to year. And if you do get suspended in a year on having the 3 strikes, then that carries over to where next year you automatically have 2 strikes. I mean, we're sitting here today trying to put this roster projection together, John, and it's so hard to do. You're already up against it. I mean, you are right nosed up against it as an NFL team to properly put a roster together so you can just field your team every week. Say nothing of the war of attrition that takes place throughout this week throughout this NFL through every team season. It's rife with problematic things that will come up out of this. And again, nobody was asking for it. Nobody's saying, we need a 3-strike policy to just start getting guys suspended for a game. Nobody was asking for that. The NFLPA wasn't asking for it. The fans weren't asking for it. Which when we come back to you start to go, is this to do a little bit of controlling team stuff, huh? Yeah, I agreed. I think you have plenty of edge players, and I think 3 guns, that's part of why I don't think you need to make a trade right now, is you can afford to take the time to assess. Let's play out the first couple of games of the season and see what we need or don't need, see what is really left wanting and what might be just fine with where it's at. You're coming back to it. It may just be the case you have properly built this team up, that you have the depth in place, you have the strength on the front side, and you don't have to make those moves. And John, I think, is definitely in a position to be able to take that time to really assess it. Nicholas, thank you for the $5 donation. I appreciate you for that. Nicholas B, unfortunately, I won't get to watch any football this season unless I go to a bar. I don't drink anymore, so it's going to be a rough season. No football at the hotel. Yikes. Well, that's not any good, man. That's not any good. That sounds like hell to me. That's like when I was living out of the Seattle area and you couldn't buy games and you could only, that sucks, man. Well, hopefully got you rocking in here with us, and I'll try to keep you up to breast what's going on with stuff, man. Man, that's too bad. I don't drink much anymore myself. I've pretty much almost all but stopped. It's like every once in a while, a little bit here and there, but I can't do it no more. Appreciate you, man. Come here. We'll keep you up to date with everything. Oh, Fro, you hang in there as well, man. Sorry to hear that. Wow, again, you guys just tremendously kind. Already 18 donos in here. Nolan with a $10 donation. Thank you for that. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape than 1 innocent person should suffer. Ben Franklin verse, better that 10 innocent players be punished than 1 tarnish the shield. Roger Goodell. It's true. And I love that quote. I was bringing that up as well, is that it's one that I think sits in the way of what's in the spirit of this democracy in this country and what we've established ourselves to be. What is our standards? And this doesn't fit to me, our standards of this stuff, A lot of these players, it may become shocking to people on this. So a lot of these guys that come into this league don't come from, great backgrounds where they were set up for a ton of success, and a guy like Arnold, for instance, with guys that he grew up with, keeping those guys as friends, like a lot of people that love to judge who got to grow up with lives where there was no issues or no problems with their upbringing. And they're like, why can't they just do the right thing? Why aren't they just, it's not that hard to just not break the law. Like, well, we all grow up with different backgrounds and different circumstances, and those guide us in different ways, don't they? But I fall back in that alignment of it. I think it's some of the saddest stories that we have in our legal system when we hear about those guys that go to jail, spend 30 years in jail, then they get out after 30 years because there's some evidence that's kicked free, like DNA or something, that's proven them to be completely innocent. That is atrocious. And let's face it, here in this country, we imprison more people in this country per capita than anybody in the world. So it's not like we're shy about being punitive or locking people up. Great quote, Nolan. Great quote. And one I absolutely believe in and share with Ben. Randizer, Hawks Nest, the core rule for surviving a werewolf attack is beware of the full moon, stay on the road, keep off the moors. And they didn't listen. If they had just listened, there wouldn't have been any problem. Everybody in that bar tried to tell them what's up, but they were going to be them, typical Americans. Can't tell them nothing. Typical Americans, we're going to go where we want, freedom. And what did that get them? Have a going out there, Megan. Tell Ollie I said, hey. Tell him I said, what's up? Yeah. Praying for both Bill Zimmerman and Fro. Man, prayers out to you guys. Hope you guys are all hanging strong out there. Heart goes out to you on that. Pauline's one I shed tears for. Vince Scully, I cried more for him than my dad. Well, that'd be understandable on those ones. That's understandable. Brian, Hawks Nest, we know it's an imposition on your time, but we're so grateful that you're here sticking with us, extended live streams, and engaging the community. Means a lot, brother. I love hanging with you guys. And it's always fun chopping it up and turning this stuff over and just, letting the subjects kind of roll around, man. I think we have a great time with this, and I think it's what makes this channel this channel. I don't think I'm doing anything that's separates myself out from, necessarily other Hawk content creators or other people that are doing this thing. I think the thing that separates us out is our community and, the spirit of engagement we have, where people understand it's not just merely people just, vomiting up stuff on a chat board, but we got people that actually bring some cool thoughts and insights. And I always, as I say, come out of this more smarter than I walk into it. And that's because of you guys, and you guys bring the heat every single time I go live. So it's a mutually beneficial thing, man. It is one where I love it. I enjoy it. It's my favorite thing to go live and chop this up with you guys. I mean, this is a dream to think that, I grew up in an era where there was basically there was a wall between you and having the ability to do what I'm doing right now. You're going to go to school for 4 years. You're going to grind as a low-end guy in some news center and be a mule for somebody else, and then inch your way up the line and then do all the dirty work out in all these other markets. And then we get to skip through all that now. All we got to do now is just be willing to go live and talk. And so it's a great opportunity to have this chance. I'm really blessed to be able to do it. And it's never lost on me, especially days like this where I get to go live with you guys after having a game yesterday and kicking off a new season, championship team. I got people that are sending me cool stuff here in the mail, and some posters coming through here today, man. It's like I got 2 Christmases this year. Life's pretty good, man. Life is pretty good. Andy on Maze Smith. I don't think Maze's coming to Seattle. Mike has an opportunity at Maze Smith prior to this point. Could have got him for peanuts. Didn't jump. Mike's got a familiarity with Maze going back to Michigan. So if there was true from his standpoint, hey, this guy's good, he's got something to give, he would have gone out there, I think, and made a run at him prior to this. I think the team likes what they have in Brandon Peely. The Wu-Tang Life. Do you think AI and analytics are more important than human decision-making? The Kosla family are focused on integrating quantitative insights across every tier of the franchise. I think it depends on what we're applying the AI and analytics to, Wu-Tang. I think that there are places AI and analytics absolutely are going to supersede human decision-making and should be put in place of that, that can be, proven out. I think that when it comes to football, it is not as much a sport that is opened up to be analytically driven as basketball, baseball, or maybe even hockey. So just to say you're going to try to put it everywhere, at every stop, at every place, and have it used in full in that way would be improper use of it. You still need to pick and choose. It's much in the same way like using AI now. It's a supplemental tool. It should not be the tool. And if you're leaning on it as just the tool, instead of supplemental, then it's a crutch more than it's actually, helping you in that manner. But, applying it from the ticket sales to processes to all that other stuff. I mean, there's certainly, I think, something to be said for that. And, I think there's a lot of revulsion to AI right now, which I kind of get, but also as a guy that's been on this earth for so many years as I have been, I've been down this road a variety of times with people having these same kind of revulsions. Technology is going to constantly progress, and you can get mad about it. You can get upset about it. You can get caught up on the things that are going to be deterrents and deficiencies because of the technology coming into play. But one thing is going to be for certain, you're not going to stop technology. The bitching and moaning will not halt it from continuing its progress. So in my opinion, if that's going to be the reality of it, best to just kind of lean into it. Best to try to not fight the tides, but to go with the tides, or even use the power of the tides. Dare we do that? Bill, it'll be interesting to see if we have any trades at the cut. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be either. That's why I want to go live tomorrow, Bill, is you never know. And with John, he is a guy that is at all times, at all points in the year, is going to always look for where he can upgrade the roster in any way he may be able to do it. So, agreed. Tomorrow's going to be very intriguing. Froze is it's crazy. Here's something is crazy. Within 2 weeks of each other, me and a guy I work with closely were diagnosed with esophageal, I can't say that word, esophageal cancer. Both of us. My pronunciation's gone out the window with age. I'll tell you what. That's awful, man. I'm sorry to hear that. And that's wild that it happened at the same time. Well, you start to look over it like, is there an electrical system shooting through this office that we're not aware of? That's like doing some substation stuff here. Get better, Fro. Please do get better, man. Make sure you're taking good care of yourself. Brando, for Rams, your team picking Bailey or Connors off waivers would be our worst scenario. How about your practice squad candidates? My practice squad candidates for the team, I think you'll get, I think you'll have Uso over there. You'll get, I think you're going to get Monterio over there. Maybe that's a guy you could pluck from us. You can do a little bit of turnabout fair play, go from Monterio Foster over there. We'll obviously have a couple of our linemen over there. I think Cable Do will get over there. You'll probably have Kite over there as one of your other tackles that'll be on that. I'd estimate you'll probably try to get Chris Paul back onto the practice eventually after he clears through the waivers, the injury stuff. Surratt, you'd love to get back on there for our practice squad. Igbinogany, if you can get him onto the practice squad, I think would be ideal. I think that Andre Fuller will go over there on the practice squad when it's all said and done too. Those would be my main guys. Minxie, hey Hawksnest, would you be stoked if we traded for Max Crosby tomorrow? Yeah, dude. You get to the trade deadline and you go, okay, I want to add an edge. And I go, okay, I want to add an edge that can get kind of close to the impact of a Myles Garrett. You're not going to find Myles Garrett. There's only one of those guys. But I want to find something close to that. There's really not a lot of possibilities of guys existing in this league right now that also would be potentially available for Seattle to go get. That could be close to that guy. And Crosby is that. So, he is a tremendous edge. And he is a good all-around player. And he fit to this defense. And he would give Mike another weapon that would be I'm just stunning to have on this defense as far as the parts he has to work with in order to make his system run. So I would love it. I would love it. I think we're going to have to wait on the Crosby trade more to the deadline, be it either here or somewhere else. But I would do nothing but applaud it if we made that move. Nicholas, thank you for another $5 donation, brother. You're very kind, man. Y'all are very, very kind here on this Hawks Nest. I know I can count on you, B. Go Hawks. Woo! Hey, woo! Give you a little Ric Flair. Woo! You know you can, man. We're going to have a great year this year. I got a load of shows that are lined up to cover this thing end to end. I'm so stoked as we just keep expanding here every single year, bit by bit, more and more. And so I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for all of your support here, Nicholas. Your long-time support, as well as being a member of the channel. You guys are awesome. And just like Nicholas here, you guys are just, you donate and you're members of the channel. I could never ask for more as far as the support to this channel from you guys. It is second to none on this YouTube community, I'm telling you. And I really do thank you guys for that. I love this attitude, Fro. I'm going to beat it, Brando. No worries. I love that attitude, brother. And I know it's a little woo-woo-y. I'm just saying, if I learned I had cancer tomorrow, the first two things I'd look into would be the fendenzaball ivermectin combo. Grab those two combinations. I think we're going to come to find that some of the studies that we're hearing from those drug studies that are going to come out to be in favor pretty well. So, but I love your attitude, man. Do please take care of you. Get beat the hell out of that thing. Attitude goes a long way with that at times, weirdly as that can be, you know. Brian says, yeah, the punishments are totally a double standard when stacked next to the principles we founded the nation on. But NFL will turn right around and tell you playing in the NFL is a privilege, not a right. It's true. It's true. That's what they fall back on is they go, well, it is a privilege. It's like, well, and I can't really push tremendously against that other than just that, you know, it's also that these guys have to do so much in preparation and being all about ball in order to be able to play for that privilege, that not acknowledging a bit of that in your punishment program where it's like, it isn't like he can go have his second job on the side where he's, you know, like we're hearing from Ontario Foster, where it's like he's selling houses on the side. You know, he's got a secondary income that can at least offset. It's like, no, you got to put everything into this just to get to that privilege point. But there's a bit of fairness to it on it. Still, like you saying, you're in alignment with me on it. It is a double standard to the principles we found on. You know, we don't ready, fire, aim. We don't punish and then investigate. That's fraught with a lot of peril. That's fraught with a lot of bad judgments coming out the other side of it. But again, we come back to on this. The NFL players have nobody but themselves to look at with this. It's easy to make Goodell ultimately the villain here, but it's also the players having given up their right to have a true, fair program in place. They didn't have to voluntarily give it up. They did. I'm sure they would try to take it back now if they could, but granted, as the Hawks Nest, with the NFL locking down on all those sites where we could watch a game for free, I'm surprised they've not cracked down on content creators live streaming game commentary. Yeah, I think it'd be hard to do on live commentary because like I'm not showing any content from their game. You know, I'm just responding live to what's happening in the game. So I don't think I think that's a much different scenario from people that are live streaming the content and taking away actual revenue from them as far as like less eyeballs means we have less that we can say that we go to the sponsors to say, you need to pay us more money because we have this many eyeballs. And I'm like, no, you don't. It's like, yes, we do. When you take into account all these illegal streams, they're like, yeah, that's not real stuff. So, you know, it's really, I can see why they're locking in on that. And I've kind of been surprised in the past, Grandizer, why they haven't, you know, gone harder at allowing some of this stuff to just stay open for a long period of time. But no, I think if anything, Grandizer, what you're going to see is the NFL more embracing the YouTube folks. You know, I mean, look at last year, I think at the start of the year last year, you had Grossi, I believe, was able to do a live stream game of the Packers. And he was actually playing the Packers game and doing commentary on it as it was playing. And that was given the right by the NFL. They were kind of starting to try it out a little bit. And they've announced that they're going to maybe try a little bit more of this out in the future. So I'm hoping eventually we can get to the place where I'm going to be able to actually, potentially actually just push the games out themselves as we do the play-by-play. Daniel, Rob Staten brought up a good point. In the UK, this would never happen. They don't ban players before the court makes a decision. At least that's what he said. Not sure. But yeah, what if he's 100% innocent? Then what? Yeah, you don't get your money back, right? That's the part of this that's the wrong. That's the part of this that you do this and you end up punishing an innocent man and you take away from him that by which he cannot get back. I ain't getting my money back at that point. I mean, as it is right now, the Lions are probably going to try to go after his rookie contract money, his guarantees, some of his bonus. Like they're already running after that before we've gotten to a conviction, I'm guessing. And this is where we come back. It's not right. This is not what a society should be doing. It's not a career that lasts forever. Guys can't play they're 55 years old. You have this very short period of time to earn your money. Be very careful of taking that food off that man's plate unless you're really sure about your reasoning for doing it. And simply somebody throwing a bunch of charges at a guy is not a good enough reason, in my opinion. Because again, the judicial system, if it operated just purely with like more of maybe a pure process of like, when we put up charges, those charges are real. That's what we're bringing to you, versus it being like, well, we're just trying to overwhelm you with the charges and then get you to plea down and then da. It's like, it's where, again, our court system has got a little twisted on that just a tiny bit. But that's a good point. It's not how they would do it over there. HG, who would begin to raise the 12 on Wednesday? I got to think that it's either going to be Jody or it's going to be Pete. Those would be my two picks. Never give up, Bill. Attitude's absolutely important. You know, and people go in the tank and people don't apply a sense of like, fight. Fight. They allow themselves to let that out, and then just it's like how the placebo effect can come in on things for people when they've done those studies. Like we still don't quite understand the level, the power of the subconscious mind and the ability to will things into being almost in certain ways. 3 guns deep, I'm a correctional officer in prison. There is nobody in prison for that unless they were dealing with it. As far as I think he's responding to Patrick on that. Ski Nation, thank you for 40 months as a Hawks Nest member. Yes, I too would like to flex my multi-year membership. Well done, Ski Nation. Working your way into 4 years over here, my man. The Rams are pathetic, dude. Honestly, no amount of MVPs will save them. Sad. Let him know, man. Let him know. I love it, Ski Nation. Feeling the team. He ain't buying what the Rams are selling this year. I like it. I do feel like there's a ton of pressure on that team. I feel like depth is going to be challenged. Still think they'll have a good year, but boy, there is a little bit on the knife's edge on that one, just a bit with that team and how they've set this thing up. But man, thank you to 40 months as a Hawks Nest member. Folks, you can become a member today of the channel. We just got off the PFF scores this morning for members of the channel. We got Tuesday. We'll be doing the Hard Knocks watch along. We got next Saturday. We'll be doing a call-in show for members of the channel. So just continue to keep expanding those benefits out to you guys. And if you are a member, do take a look over your community post, as that's where I put the membership benefits at, along with patrons. So thank you for that, Ski. You're awesome, man, for that long-time support. Jim Elfer, I want Jody and the Kozlas to both raise it. Nice symbolism. That would be cool. That'd be cool. I like that. I like where your head's at with that. Holmgren be a good pick. Holmgren be amazing. Jay Melfair, Allens were great owners, and I have seen nothing I don't like from the Kozlas yet. Agreed. Good out the gate. Peely's good. I think Semalu's going to be a bit of a development guy, but he's got something there that might be worth developing. Just get him in. He'll definitely make it over onto the practice squad. Any chance Seattle brings in Jake Moody to put a little pressure on Myers? Jay Harbaugh coached him at Michigan. There's a chance. I guess it just depends on the level of worry and concern Seattle has with Jay May. I would say I would be shocked to see them go a different direction, but maybe he's looked awful in the practice field too. I think some of this just depends on if he's looked good in the practice field but bad in the games, then they're going to feel fine about it. If he's looked awful in practice, awful in games, then that probably opens up more of that as a possibility. The other part is this: if you do move off of Myers early in the season, there's a couple $1 million to be saved on his contract. I don't think that'll be a driving force, but could make that a little bit of an extra piece of this game as you're trying to consider what to do. No, AI is not harmless. I don't think it's not harmless. There's the folks that'll just say that, we got to, let's fight against not, it won't be used at all. It's like, it's going to become more of the commonplace. There's little we can do about it in that way. Jeff says, my problem with AI is the resource going to it and the amount of people who think it is the tool and not a supplemental tool, as you wisely said. Yeah, that's true. It is being used in that way. And it does suck because it is making things messy for the folks that are operating from that standpoint within their outlook of it. John, I use AI for technical questions 50% of the time. AI is wrong, so I fact checked it all the time. It's definitely in that. It's kind of like AI's in the football analytics PFF phase of things. There's some right stuff there, but there's also some head scratching scores in there where you're like, how'd you get to that? Ricky, you see the Jory Porter situation getting worse. Now Steelers legend James Harrison is blasting the franchise for how they're handling this. Steelers already making a trade today. How about one more? Porter would be a hard one to add on, Ricky, because you're going to have to extend him on a contract if you bring him in. And John has indicated that he does not want to do that anymore. But that's not a great thing to do. It's like you did it with Percy Harvin, and you've kind of avoided doing that for the most part, despite making a lot of big trades for guys where you didn't take that approach. Leonard Williams, for instance, you wait till the end of the season. You wait until you got into the next new league year. So, I don't see Porter getting traded. He's going to want to sit on that rookie contract. I don't think you're going to want to pay him $30 million. Weird situation from the Steelers because they've kind of gone in on it this year. They've paid a lot of guys some money. They've kept TJ Watt's contract on the books. They've seemed to indicate, okay, we're going to do this one last go for a year with Rodgers here, but then you're not going to get Porter rewarded on a new deal. So it does seem sort of going counter to what they've kind of indicated what is their motivational force right now as a team for the season. So I can understand why James is a little bit thrown off by that. It's like it's the sort of the definition, Ricky, of pick a lane. Are we going for it or are we not? Kind of thought a little bit of this as well as when you're hearing them go out there and get the deal done with not Highsmith, but I think they did get the deal done with no. Highsmith, you had Highsmith, and then you had the other kid that they got from Wisconsin that they got the deal done. Then you're hearing that they're thinking about maybe moving Watt, but then maybe not. Steelers are a very reactive organization, traditionally so. And that what that leads them to be, Ricky, is in a position of not really seemingly having much of a focus of a long-term plan. That just feels like moment to moment, they're just kind of dealing with what's happening in front of them. And this is why they've kind of fallen short in recent years. So you operate that way as an organization and you're not going to become great. Strange too, because they did not used to be this way organizationally speaking. Jeff Scott Foster and Nogany making the roster. Both of them had really good preseasons. I could see it being a possibility here, man, for sure. It's not crazy. I 100% Jeffrey. Not 99, but 100%. We'll see, man. I have us holding on to only 5 wide receivers. I've got Cody White myself making the roster, Jeffrey. I think the differentiation here is going to be the special teams play. I think White gives you a little bit more as a special teamer. Last receiver on the roster tends to be there as much for what he does in the special teams as what he can be as a receiver, as upside as a receiver. But it'll be an interesting decision for the team to try to turn over there. Patrick, there's been many cures treatment for cancer, but if the medical industry, if it's not in the medical industry, can't control it, they trash it. It's true. So I would definitely, if I was going through that myself, be looking at a lot of alternative methods because there are alternative methods out there. Just like you say, it tends to be that if they don't make the big profit margin to them, they get kind of suppressed. Nolan, thank you for the $2 donation. Mookie put his 53 on field goals. Want to compare? Sure. Okay, so we're in alignment on everything. He's got Rock Lampy being cut. I've got Lampy being kept. He's got Montario Foster being kept and Cody White being cut. That's obviously a place that I'm a little bit different upon as well, I would say. For tight ends, we're in alignment there. Looks like we've got all the same guys on the offensive line that we're keeping. So we're in alignment there. Defensive line, I'm the same. I got Morris and Peely on the back end, as does he. 4 edges. I got 4 edges. Knight O'Connell, we're in alignment there. He's got us cutting Trayvon Diggs. And so I would probably say that I've got us keeping Trayvon Diggs. He's also got us keeping one more. Essentially, he's got us keeping one more cornerback that I would have had there for Brock Lampy. So he's put the cornerback there on that side of it. And then we're in the same place. He's got AJ Finley making it and Rodney Thomas getting cut. I've got Rodney Thomas making it over Finley. But that could go either way. Admittedly, that's very possible that could be shifted in either direction there, Nolan. So just a couple set guys that we're a little bit different on. The Lampy cut that he's got in there, we're different on the wide receiver one. And again, it could go either way on the wide receiver one between Foster and Cody White on that one. And then the safety is for the same reason. You know, you could cut a Rodney Thomas because he's a vested veteran. Finley's not. You keep Finley on the roster for week 1. You bring Thomas back week 2. Then his salary's not fully guaranteed for the season. So we're pretty much right on the same spot with it. I do think Trayvon Diggs makes the roster, though. I think if there was a question of Trayvon making it, it's kind of like, you know, why wouldn't you have played him throughout the rest of the course of the game yesterday more further if that was going to be the intention, you know, unless the thinking is that you're going to be able to just get him onto the practice squad. But I think Diggs makes it. Thank you, Nolan. Appreciate the donation. Just put a mill note to the Cowboys for the third. They're locked up. They got 3 deep themselves right now with quarterbacks. Coke and Brandon, the guy you're bringing behind any lines, I remember watching him before the Super Bowl. When you brought him on, he was much more moderate, but when he did his own show, he was saying the most ridiculous stuff. He was feeling himself after last year, Koken, you know, and that's a Patriot organization that's been riding high for a long period of time, you know. So I have a feeling he'll be a little humble when we get him next week. You guys are clicking here. Oh, we'd have a quick show today, but you guys are rolling on a Saturday. Pete raising the flag at the NFC Conference Championship, just as long as he's doing it at some point, you know. I'll miss Jaron Reed. Truly his last season. I really hope not. He's one of my faves. Probably going to be the last one for Jaron, I'd imagine. Yeah, I will too. He's been a hell of a player, a guy with a championship mindset, going back to Alabama where he won it there with Saban. A leader on that defense. Still a very effective player. Bill, thanks, Brandon, for the support. Appreciate all the good wishes. Absolutely, man. I'll say a prayer for you guys as well on that. I love that you got the right attitude on it, Bill. Seahawks 360. Thank you for 28 months as a Hawks Nest member. We still yapping about getting rid of Milrow, I see. I don't think it's too hardy. It's not as hardy as it was last week, 360. I think folks are on board with the fact that this is another year experience at least, minimum here. Thank you, man, for the over 2 years as a Hawks Nest member. People are floating it around, but I think it's more playfully right now at this point than anything else, if I may say. Dogzilla, thank you for the $2 donation. Which coach slut is best looking? Anyone fun? Best looking? Anyone fun? Huh? I don't know what you mean. I think the son looks like he has fun. I think. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one. Appreciate you, Dogzilla. No, Nolan, thank you for the $2 donation. The Coast Club paid $9.6, $1.2 billion to raise the flag. It's probably true. They probably should be the first ones out the gate, considering they just dropped a hefty sum. That you at least get that with it, right? You know, I at least get the beer koozie. What did I pay for if I'm not even getting that? It's a good point, Nolan. They'll probably be the ones out there raising it. I just kind of want to see Pete, back in the fold, Pete, water under the bridge at some point. Maybe not game one, but just some point. Maybe against the Raiders. Actually, that's on the road. You're very kind then, Nolan, man. Thank you for all your support today. Ricky, because of all the draft picks we have, just throw the Steelers multiple picks and wait and see what you got in Porter. He seems like a good fit McDonald. And in today's game, you must have 2 cornerbacks. Yeah, but you got to pay him if you trade for him, Ricky. So you have to give him a $30 million contract extension. And I don't know if the books are exactly set up in a place right now where you want to, or in a position to do that. Especially you just gave $24 million to Josh Jobe. I don't think you're going to be able to bring him in here and have him sit on a rookie contract. He's wanting to get paid right now. So whoever does trade for him, if somebody does trade for him out of the Steelers, they've got to give him that contract off the rip. It's like Ricky, when the Rams traded for McDuffie, they had to give McDuffie a new contract extension. One goes with the other. The CJ Kurz Hawk, thank you for the $2 donation. Brandon, go Hawks. Is Arnold allowed to practice? No, he is not allowed to practice. Thank you for the donation, and go Hawks, brother. He is now on the NFI list. He can be in the team meetings. He can be around the team. He just can't do any of the practice stuff. So you are able to onboard him a little bit at least, get him acclimated to the playbook and whatnot, but nothing on the field, no hitting, no any of that stuff. I'm guessing we're going to, next shoe to drop here, CJ, is we'll get a commissioner decision about whether or not this is going to be for a year suspension or for like 10 games. That's the next thing, and that should come down the line here in the next week or two, I would estimate. Thank you for the support, brother. I agree with you, Brian. I don't see why you sign Diggs if there's not the intention of putting him on the active roster. It doesn't make sense with me, especially after he gets the pick yesterday. They might have put him on the practice squad for a week. It's a possibility, and that does allow you to avoid having to be guaranteed to paying him his full salary for the year. So that's the part that makes this hard, is that some of this is you avoiding having the salaries guaranteed for vested vet contracts. Henderson, possibility to make it over right. I think the final roster spot for the receiver is very fluid and very possible to be a variety of guys. I'm trying to make an educated guess with White, where he gives you enough from a receiving position and he's got enough background as being a top end special teams player for you that I think that wins out. But there's some other factors that go involved into this. So maybe they like the upside of Henderson. Maybe they think he's a work in progress. Maybe they don't want to do the vested interest thing on White, whereas Henderson's going to be dirt cheap as a rookie. So there's so many different little factors on these things. And I can understand completely the intrigue of you guys out there saying, well, I like this guy as the final guy on the roster. Well, I like that guy as the final guy on the roster. And I can appreciate where everybody's got their favorites on this. The thing that I would push to you is that when we're talking about these back-end roster spots, it's not necessarily that incredibly important, because the back-end roster spots, the last 4, 5, 6 spots on a roster, are fluid throughout the course of the season. So it's really like what it is this week will change anyway to next week, especially factoring in some of these vested veteran contracts and the way the teams get around having to have those contracts guaranteed. Hard to say on that, but it could go that way, man, for sure. Is there a female Kosla we can hook you up with, Brando? I wish, man. I hope. Kosla family, just let's make this happen. Bring me into the fold. Bring me into the fold. Ain't no ring on this finger. Uh, by any means necessary, Rob. Our opener is on Wednesday, Nicholas. Of course, not this week, but next week. 3 guns so they don't have to cut the other players that they want to keep. No. You cut a guy today that was going to make the roster. So it's a 1-day thing, and then he goes on the inactive list. Yeah, I mean, they got a favored niece, I like where your head's at, Rob. I'm still here. Ricky says, I hear you, but Houston pays 2 edge rushers and a corner. Since we aren't spending big at edge, why not pay 2 corners? Well, you got the ability potentially to stretch it. It puts Job on the bench, and that $24 million spent to him just kind of goes away. And it's sort of you thinking then that Job's not good enough, which is like, well, why give the contract out if you're kind of taking that role with it? There's a possibility it gets done, but I think that, again, back to the side of this, Ricky, the Percy Harvin situation freaked John out. I went out there, I traded for a wide receiver. I then paid that wide receiver before he had played a single down with us, and it caused locker room problems. Go back to a couple weeks ago in Hard Knocks, and Richard Sherman talking about the fact that we come back off the Super Bowl, and this guy's talking about that, and that guy's talking about this, and this guy's a problem over there. And it was that year after the Super Bowl that literally you're 4 or 5 games into the season, and you're having to release Percy Harvin. And you've got the situation with Percy Harvin and Golden Tate on the lead up to the Super Bowl week, where Golden Tate's a little bit in his feelings, and he says something in a report in the news about how, well, we don't really need Percy. I mean, we were fine throughout the whole year, and it's a little bit of that animosity that starts to grow in these kind of situations. So I would just say, think a little bit about that part of it being that it isn't just adding the player, and you're taking this stagnant player, you're taking this player who's going to be injected into this team, is going to be great, and you're rewarding him, and it's going to be fantastic, and your corner room's the best in football by far. It's also what's the fallout to the other players on the roster a little bit. And maybe you can mitigate it. I mean, some stuff can be mitigated in this way, Ricky, it can. But I just think from John's perspective, and all I'm trying to do is just make a prediction about this type of thing. If you're asking me to predict what John would do in looking at if Ramsey were to become available, not Ramsey, but if Porter were to become available, is this a trade right now John's going to make? Is he going to go flick a first and a third round pick or whatever and then pay this guy $30 million plus per year? I can't see John that being fitting into John's behavior. He might go make a swing trade like that, but then that's going to be a Crosby that he's making that swing for. I don't think it's going to be for the, essentially the other number 2 cornerback. But you've got the money. You do have an opening right now to be able to add this kind of contract. That'd be about all you can do. That's the other thing with this too, Ricky, is then that does become your swing. There is no Crosby down the line. There is no opportunity for other positions down the line. You've locked yourself into that being the spot and the only way of your ability to upgrade. Like your receiving core gets leaned and lined down. You ain't going to have anything to really go and then reinforce that at that point after making that deal. You're going to be, right up against it. But anything's possible there, man. Anything is possible. I would be shocked at the end of the day if, considering the fact that the Steelers were pushing so hard this offseason to still say, one more year, we're going to give it a try here, whether you believe us or not, or whether you're buying into us or not. I'd find it very weird that they're then going to give up their best cornerback on their team right on the precipice of the season, given that those circumstances involved. I think he stays, but I don't think there's a fit here. And I think really John's going to be very hesitant, Ricky, in the future to make any deal where he's going to trade for a guy and then pay him. I think even if you made a trade for a Crosby, for instance, in midseason, I think you'd tell Crosby, we're going to bring you in here, but you're playing on your current salary, and then we will extend you this offseason, like you did with Leonard Williams. So I think I'll call it the Percy Harvin rule here, Ricky. I think there's a Percy Harvin rule in place on this one a bit. But I wouldn't turn him down either, brother. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say no to him. Am I concerned about Jason Myers? I'm getting a little concerned, yeah. Heavy variance over his career. So us seeing the beginning signs of a variant season means there's some smoke potentially to this fire a little bit. I'd really like to know what he's looked like in practice. I'd really like to know what he's looked like in training camp. I'd be able to derive my level of concern a little bit more knowing that information. Got shoved into a garbage can, Golden Tate. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Jordan B, would you trade for Porter if he's okay with no contract this year? I mean, we're talking max prices on the trade. So what that would mean would be that, part of trading for Porter right now, if you pay him on a contract, is you come back to the Steelers and you say, we're not giving you the first and the 2. We'll give you the 1, and that's all you get. Now you're going to go to the Steelers and say, okay, it's a 1 and a 3 maybe. We got to give you the 3 in addition to that because we're not putting him on the new contract. I'm kind of not as much in it with you guys on this Porter thing. I think that he's a fine cornerback. I don't think he's a top 5 cornerback in the sport. I think that there's more of an argument to be made that you need to keep this opening for the edge group. Let's remember with this, you're making a multi-commitment to Porter at that point. You're bringing Porter in there. You're locking down the number 2 cornerback room. You're saying, oh, we've got the best cornerback room in the sport. But remember, around this corner, around the 2026 season corner, you have 3 of your edges that are coming off contract after this season. You have one of them that's going to retire for sure. You could be walking into next offseason with all of your corners set up, but you only got 1 edge. Do we want to do that? And that's also 1 edge with all of your contract because you've given the extension out to Porter. All of your books are going to get juiced up at that point. I mean, you could come back around, I suppose, at that point, Jordan, and then move Porter in a trade and try to recoup and do a little bit of money ball kind of thing at that point, maybe, and then go get your edge at that point. But I just don't know how much of a significant impact he's going to bring to the table here versus us waiting to the deadline, keeping our powder dry at that point to then go add a real dynamic edge rusher who can really be more of a game changer, who can really move the needle of the defense a little bit more heartily, in my opinion. I may be just a little bit too light on Porter, but I mean, he's a 72 graded PFF type corner. He's not a 90 graded type dude. He ain't in that Devin Witherspoon phase. He's a above average cornerback that you're going to have to pay max prices for in every way and shape and form to bring him onto this team. While you, meanwhile, not only are sitting 3 deep with your corners, just rewarded $24 million to Josh Jobe, at which point that money, by the way, becomes thrown away to nothing pretty much for depth. But you also have the 2 first-round picks on the back of your roster as hardy, welcome additions that are long-term options that can be every bit potentially as good or right around where Porter is at as far as his performance goes. So just don't feel the drive or the need here to go to this Porter situation. You want to look at all opportunities, but just doesn't look like a market opportunity to me. Sam should change his number from 14 to 140 when we play the 49ers. You like that photo I sent you, Megan? I got the book here. Somebody sent me, I got sent a book of Largent cards, man. I got sent the mother load over here. I saw that and I thought of you instantly. I'm like, oh, Megan's going to like this one. I did see the Jamal Haynes run, Daniel. If you check it out on my Twitter account, Daniel, I actually posted the run on my Twitter. So great minds think alike. I saw it as well. And I said, I got to get this on the Twitter post here because this is too good. Fun player, man. Hell of a player. I don't think he's a target for us on that. I don't see the Bengals letting him go. It's not like they've got an incredibly deep running back room. But that's as good a run as you'll see on a football field. Preseason, regular season, it doesn't matter. I mean, that was insane. That's Beastquake run type stuff right there, Daniel. Hell of a run, man. I don't know if the NFL's banned smelling salts. It's kind of a little bit back and forth on this one. We should raise the flag week 1, Tom Brady or Deanna. Deanna Rossini should be on the sidelines with the mic staring at Vrabel through the whole game. Brady should definitely actually raise the flag as he's looking right at Josh McDaniels, like staring very intensely at Josh McDaniels. Jordan B, I'm not really for Porter, as I think number 2 cornerback is easier to replace than other defensive positions. Just curious what scenario could work. Yeah, you could potentially trade for him, but again, it's part of the thing is that I don't know that you're going to get him in a place that he's going to want to be paid here, Jordan. If you trade for him, he wants to be paid now. Him being simply traded to Seattle doesn't mean negate him not wanting to then be paid. Like, you have to trade for him, you're going to have to pay for him. I don't mind running up the flagpole and theoretically going, well, if you didn't trade for him, what would it look like? If you didn't pay for him, what would it look like? But I just don't see that being a reality of understanding how these trades typically work. Again, using McDuffie as a baseline, right? So when we want to try to determine what's going to happen or what's a realistic scenario or what's an unrealistic scenario, you dial back to the historical norms. And when the historical norms are very hard lined in, then you don't go to the deviation. So like when you bring up in your question, Jordan, what if we trade for him and then we don't reward him a contract? That's the deviation, right? And that type of situation is going to happen, like to give you, for instance, on this Jadeveon Clowney trade, where he's on a franchise tag. He's on a franchise tag. That's the key of it. So you go to him in that situation and you can get creative in there. You go, okay, Houston, we're going to give you more draft capital. You're going to eat half the contract. And Jadeveon, you're going to be willing to be traded over here and not be given a contract extension, because what we're going to guarantee is that we're not going to franchise tag you after the season, which is an assurance that the Texans are not going to give you right now. Porter's not in that type of situation. So trying to call upon that as sort of a, what if we could do the thing like we did with the Jadeveon, but we could apply it to the Porter? No, you can't. He's going to want to be paid. He's under his rookie contract. He wants an extension. So I get the thinking here. I do. And again, I love the thinking thought you guys are turning over all possibilities, but let's also not turn it over for too long, right? Let's turn it over. And once we can realize it's really not a fit, put the rock back on the ground and start, kind of looking into elsewhere. So nothing's out of whack. Nothing's out of possibility. John's in on every deal, but this one just doesn't align up to me in any way. I can't see why it makes any sense, to be honest with you. Ricky Myers scares me. Love to see some data on kickers who have had preseasons compared to what they did in the regular season that year. Kicking has a mental component to it. Confidence is needed. It's true. Well said. Jeffrey, thank you for a $5 donation and all of your support today, brother. Let's build a team with every player that's ever been arrested and is currently playing. Team might not be good, but be entertaining and mean, though. Yeah, that's a little bit of the... they definitely would have that edge, Jeffrey, to your point. They would definitely have that edge. And unfortunately, the NFL, there's a pretty rich history of a lot of players get arrested. So it's not like it hasn't been a thing in the NFL. You know what I mean? But again, it comes back to a lot of them come back from, less than great starting points as far as children and the environments they grew up in. And that's a big part of this puzzle too, that sometimes doesn't get considered, I suppose. But you're awesome, Jeffrey. Thank you for all your support today, brother. We will cross about 3 hours and 20 minutes here, so we'll start to kind of put a little bit of a button on this. I'm getting thirsty and hungry and whatnot. We're going to be coming back tomorrow with another show as well, so we'll probably get the last of the questions, comments on in here and kind of roll through. Yeah, we're starting to get the point, and this is a little bit inferred, I think, to the discussion about Porter, and maybe you guys are sensing me being a bit sensitive here on this, because we are starting to get to the point where the credit card's starting to feel a little bit of the bill due. We're not in a treacherous place as far as cap goes. We're going to have to make some tough decisions around the corner place, but you're not also in a place where you're free and easy and you're going to just do whatever you want into the foreseeable future. The money is not a problem here. We got to start taking into account a little bit of the salary cap budget here and understand that there's now going to be only so many bullets in the gun that we can fire. And that it's not going to be an endless amount of rounds that's unexhaustive and is infinite, And so that's where it's got to be a bit more tactical, I think, on the players that we add, especially if we're going to add big major splashes, John. If you're going to look for that big, well, then we got to be a little strategic in how we offer, not just, hey, big name here comes up, let's bring him. Hey, big name here comes up, let's bring him. Let's find the real, true, certain fit that's really going to be a home run as an answer here when you bring him in. Niblax, they need to address corner with the draft pick. Maybe Neal will be it, or a high pick next year. Possible. Yeah. I figure they'll get after it here at some point or another. Diggs has decent size to him. He's not a big corner necessarily, but he's got pretty good size and length to him. Arnold as well, if he's out on that field. But I think you're right. That's a real possibility that next year they come back around to that new Blacks. Jack, Steelers are a mid organization. I don't want to do business with those guys. I get it, man. Yeah, no, I get it. They are I think they are a little bit highly reactionary organization. They're missing a vision. Of course, they're not very cash rich, which is another impediment to them. But also just having a bit of a strange offseason. You're rolling with Rodgers again. You've rewarded that other rusher where you've paid 3 rushers pretty good money, but you can only run 2 of them out there at any one given time. They seem to be indicating a little bit there that maybe they're going to start to look for a TJ Watt trade. But then they didn't. And then now you have this contract squabble coming up with Porter. It's a bad look for the Steeler organization and doesn't make a lot of sense. I only ask because Myers uses smelling salts. I didn't see him using them. Maybe there's something to that. And we got to find a way to get some smelling salts on the field if that's the case. King Vegeta, Brando. I, for one, think corner is an issue. I believe McDonald can elevate anyone. I don't think corner is an issue. I think McDonald can elevate anyone. Yes. I think you touch upon what I think on this as well. I want to have talented corners on this defense. I'd like to have talented safeties on this defense. I've got to pick priorities as to where I want to put the onus above, most of the time, put the onus of my resources on one side of the ball or the other. I believe that this defense is driven more by the front seven than it's going to be driven by the back. I think that you do a lot of dropping heavy amounts of guys into coverage, a lot of 7-man drops in this defense, which means the 4-man have got to get home, which means the 7-man have a lot of extra help to cover up those passing windows. So in general, the drive to need to go get the heavy lockdown corner that can travel and do not as much of a necessity to this defense and how you play it. The ability to go get a guy on the defensive line that can win consistently and whoop ass, can beat double teams, that's way more important in my opinion. I think for other schemes, it would be different. But not for, like, if I'm in a blitz heavy scheme that's going to play man coverage on the outside, if I'm going to be the Denver Broncos, yeah, all day long, I'm going to be looking at maybe a Porter type to be able to add in there. But we don't run that kind of defense. We're very careful on the back end of things. It's my favorite football movie. It's hard to beat Rudy. You know, there's some good ones that you got a soft spot for, the program, you know, those kind of flicks. But I think Rudy for me, especially because, you know, when I went on the football field, I love playing football, but I was a late grower as far as that goes, you know, so small, not particularly fast, you know, a lot of the stuff, you know, 5 foot, nothing, 180, nothing, you know, like the guy says in that movie. So I can definitely relate to a little bit of Rudy. I know the story's BS and the whole thing's like in the back, supposedly in real life, he was kind of a bit of a pill, but you love that type of story, you know, like it's just underdog and especially in football where so much is how much you are physically gifted and how much God's granted you as far as size and ability and that type of thing. So that would probably be mine. I think baseball's done a way better job of making better classic films than necessarily football has. Myers needs a salty refreshment. Get them smelling salts out there. Jack, people think secondary is an issue because of the preseason when in reality we're playing 4 stringers. Yeah. We're trying out there guys that aren't even going to be on the practice squad out there on that side. And even then, they weren't awful at giving up passing yards necessarily. You made it pretty tough. You made them have to earn it. Jordan Hawksnest, I would imagine kicking is very similar to the golf swing. If one thing in the kick is off, he probably is going to be a way off, depending on how he looks in practice. It may be bad. Yeah, there might be something to it. And I think if he has been as bad in practice as he's been in the regular season, you'll hear a tryout coming. You know, you're not going to just sit on this through the whole season and let it ride out. I'm going to estimate that he has looked better on the practice field. I think you bring up a good point. And look, Myers, just outside of Myers, the kicking game for kickers in and year out tends to be wildly differing, you know, and that you have guys that you think are the best of the best and they come back the next year and they've just completely lost it. They got the yips, you know, mentally something's clicked in there. Like you say, it's very similar to the golf swing where mentally something is like, I'm doing something wrong and I don't know what it is. You know, something's changed and I don't know what it is. It isn't just they've lost skill or lost ability to kick or their leg has gotten weaker, right? It's just something's off a bit. And you don't know what it is and you can't find it. I remember back in the day, Legatron with the Rams. Came on the scene for them, guy with a big old leg. Was just, beat us a couple of different games. Guy looked like he was going to be one of these perennial kickers for years to come. And started going through that rocky road. You know, up and down, up and down, up and down. And it's the nature of that position a little bit and why I really don't like paying big time money for a kicker because it's too much of that variance and the prices get to be a little too high when you're paying that type of money that we're talking about. So might be a possibility here, man. We're just gonna have to watch and see how this thing goes. What happened to DJ James? Was he not cut out for the Hawks? No, just didn't do good. Put good tape in the out amongst the lead bad man. I think he's bounced around the league a little bit at a couple different stops. So he's kind of going here, going there. But he was a day 3 guy. Day 3 guys in the draft are always going to have a little bit of a hard time catching on more often than not. Byron Murphy still needs to be signed. Sam Darnold also at some point. That's what exactly. AJ Barner, you can throw him on top of that. It'll be another contract after this year that you're going to have to address. So, this is where there is money to be spent. There is still a way to be able to add a big addition on and throw that in because of how well John's managed the books. But you don't have endless amounts of it. And we're going to start to get to the point that we're kind of locked in certain ways. And we got to kind of roll with what we got a little bit. Chad, I'm looking forward to the behind the lines beat. Give the Patriot kid some S talk. I'll give him a little bit. I got to be careful. It's like people want me to go after Jakes in the round table. Like I got to work with these guys in the round table too. So I got to, within reason, but I'll give him a little bit of a hard time. I mean, I'm going to have to, Chad, give him a hard time for his whole, we're going to win because we're wearing white jerseys thing, right? I'm going to give him a little bit of a, some of what he was trying to use in the lead up to the week in order to try to proclaim they were going to win was kind of, he was stretching a little bit. Let's just call it that. So yeah, I'll creatively find a few moments in there to be like, those white jerseys though, huh? HHG, any top right guard in the draft we're trading up for? I haven't gotten to the guards yet in the draft on that one, man. Definitely got to a bunch of the others, but I'm a little slow to get around. I'm always, offensive line's kind of the most boring to, kind of scout, so haven't quite gotten to that one yet, but I will for sure. Ricky, Seahawks are loaded in talent in the less premium positions on defense at safety, defensive tackle, linebacker. My dream scenario is adding a edge at the deadline and then a cornerback in the first round in the draft. I could see that as being a very viable, realistic approach, Ricky, that the team takes. Pumpkin's one smart cat. She's a smart cat. She's so tired right now. I got my other cat looked at. My gosh. We're like, my old Xena girl, we took her in today, and yesterday we took her in and got a blood test because like, something's going on. It's like, hypothyroidism and bladder issues and goodness. You got to spoil them, John. You got to do it. It's a necessity. North Dallas 40 is a good one. That's a great suggestion on there. It's been a while since I've seen that one. I got to go back and watch that. Nick Nolte as a haggard wide receiver. Oh, God damn it, I know. Abigail Chula this morning. Yeah. You can't wait too long on the comedies. We got that with the Zoolander and a couple of the other ones where they tried to Dumb and Dumber tried this too. You can't wait 20 years and then try to come back and then do the sequel. You're going to lose the juice. Lose that energy. Yeah, I thought the same way. It wasn't good, but it was a fine time. You know what I mean? It's not the original, but it was fine. Golf has some good ones, that's for sure. Caddyshack and Gilmore, Tin Cup. Pumpkin is the boss. She's running this thing. She runs this household. Barnes replaceable. Ooh. Be some fighting words, Jeffrey, in the chat on that one. Well, it depends on the price. The cool thing with tight ends, Jeffrey, is that you can get him in at a pretty low-end contract, or it's kind of like the equivalent to an Ernest Jones, where it's like, he's making double digits on the millions of dollars, but in a place where it's not really, tearing up the cap. They don't get up into that 20, 25 million per area due to tight ends. If Mozzie Smith can make the Jets roster, he must be bust. Phoebe, Hawks Nest, are you glad they're finally using the rivalry jerseys against each other instead of one using the rivalry and the other one using regular? Yeah. Kind of ridiculous to have it any other way, I would say. This makes more sense. I'm not a big rivalry jersey guy. The NFL is going a little bit over the line with this jersey stuff. It's like the college football thing where it's just like, come on. ISS has another group of linemen coming out. I'd be shocked if we don't end up with one. Iowa. Oh, there we go. I was going to say Iowa. I was going to guess Iowa. It's like, that looks like, I'm getting good at being able to pick out what people mean, even when they leave out of order too. Hey, Iowa's always got some good ones kicking out, and you can't go wrong. I'm developing a strat here, IG, where I would say you can't go wrong every year grabbing an Iowa lineman, throwing him down to the top of the stack, either an Iowa or Dakota lineman. Just give me one of those big Midwestern big boys, those big hogs. Every year, just grab a new one, and you'll be fine. How about the reps from Bo Stevens taking out Chris Jones in preseason on a couple of pancake blocks, huh? Not too shabby. Or Oregon Ducks versus the Cards flour tortilla jerseys. I could just give me the throwbacks full time, right, Brian? I'm good to go on that. I'm a simple man. I see throwbacks, I say 100% of the time. That's right, corn-fed farm boys. That's the way right there. And if they're shucking bales of hay every day like Zabel, all the better. All the better, man. Martin's our eccentric, our maverick. He ain't going anywhere. I don't think he is either. I think you sign him on a 4-year extension, $13 million per year. It's an easy deal to be done. I think that'll be the easiest of those deals up. That'll be easier than the Murphy deal. That'll be easier than the Darnold deal. Wouldn't surprise me the least if that's the first one you actually get done after this offseason. Throwbacks full time. I'm a simple man, Brian. I see throwbacks. I say yes. Feels like, too, it's one of those things where most of the people in the fan base are in favor of this. Nationally, everybody's in favor of this that's not Hawk fans. Just seems like a no-brainer decision to be made. Femi, you heard the reports about the Commanders' O-line in camp? Yeesh. It's bad, Brando. It's not been good for the offense of the Commanders, and which sets up well for us because, of course, we play them a couple weeks into the season. They're going to be down with Laramie Tunsil. They've also lost Zerzan Newton, their defensive tackle, for that game. Maybe you set up for us to be able to get after them in that game a little bit easier than we thought coming into it. But they made the problem and had the problem in place. That's the same problem the Houston Texans have. You have a quarterback come up in the draft. You just draft him. You don't think about your offensive line situation. You don't think about the circumstances you're putting him into. You're just going for the magical quarterback. And then you put him behind this kind of offensive line that's now the work in progress. And sometimes you can't get that worked out in time before you get that guy injured, before you get bad habits developed, before you get him feeling like he's being inundated by pressure and any lack of holes in the running game. It's why I say take care of some business first before you go for the quarterback. You don't have the environment to be perfect in place for them. But there's a difference between setting an environment up for success and setting an environment up for failure. And I think in certain ways, when you look at that situation with Jaden out in Washington and them grabbing him, outside of Brandon Ayuk, what does he have to really work with on that offense through the first 2 years? Really? Nothing that you would say was like next. I mean, Zach Ertz in the 17th year of his career. We're going to point to that. Jarkowski Merritt, the running back they had, are we going to point to that? Like, get him more. Get him some more help. Don't just put it all in that young quarterback. I've fallen for Trevor Locke and Cade Piper. Man, you can't go wrong. I will say I've looked at a couple of the tackles. So I've been able to have at least a chance to kind of take a peek at those guys. Goosby's really nice. I think he's going to be a blue chipper on mine when it's all said and done. I've got Locke in the second round, Trevor Locke in the second round IG right now. And I haven't had a chance to look at Cade Piper, I don't think yet. But Locke's nice, man. It's a good player. If we do throwback full time, then it's not throwback. No. You'll have to find a new alt for something else. I don't know if I just don't need an endless array of alts. Like, I'm just good with just rocking your static jersey, More and more evidence that I'm glad we didn't get the Commies head coach. Nope. And part of why I didn't want to have him at the time. It's a little stale. It's not that he's not a decent coach, and more than functional head coach, more than capable of making it happen, but it feels just a little stale, a little stagnant, a little lack of innovative. What if Arroyo has a monster year 2 and is everything and more? You still think they pay Barner? I do, because Arroyo is going to be almost a separate position from Barner. He will occasionally get some inline snaps, but Arroyo is going to be utilized as an H-back tight end, a slot wide receiver, an X wide receiver. That's his alignment. If you put Arroyo into an inline situation 24/7, you're going to have a huge deficiency in the run game. You're going to have your guy, your tight end on ball getting blown back into the backfield snap after snap after snap. I guarantee it. So it's very possible Arroyo can come forward as a pass catcher and give you a lot there and be dynamic there and a difference maker there. He is not going to give you that as a blocker. He is what he is as a blocker. And that's not an awful thing. You didn't draft him. You drafted him to be a willing blocker. You drafted him to fight his ass off as a blocker, but he's not Barner. He's not going to be dominant in that way, you know? And so it's just sort of two different positions they're playing there a little bit. What about Severland? I have him as guard. I do have him as currently listed as a tackle myself. But on all of these guys, I'm very much open to the possibility of being of needing to move them inside. Because, for instance, a lot of the outside zone system right now is kind of requiring this, a la, like we did with Gray Zabel. I see Christian Darrisaw, IG, on my comp for Austin. Drive blocking, beefy tackle who can really move at the line of scrimmage in the run game and shows lockout power and solid lateral movement in pass pro. Austin mushes the undersized edges as a run blocker with good power and strong grip strength, a master of washing defensive linemen out. He's particularly brutal against those edges, shooting gaps. His solid initial quickness lets him catch them in time, and he then often pancakes them to the ground. In pass pro, he uses his length to his advantage, consistently getting to lockout and control. You're either winning quick with him, which doesn't happen often, or he keeps you in control for the full rep. Power edges can get after him with bull rushes. He needs to get stronger to deal with that at the pro level, but it's not bad or a severe part of his game. He can also stand to improve his punch. He wants to touch before locking out the power rather than punch the power out. So I tried with all of the evaluations this year, IG. I'm looking at these guys, getting an initial kind of charted place where I see them being picked, but then also trying to put in things that I want to see for them as far as improvement. Because a big part of a prospect is the looking at them is, do I see the improvement over the course of the year? I saw this in his game and that in his game that can stand to get better. Does it get better? Because if it does get better, then that's an indicator that once I bring this guy as a pro, he too will improve with time once he becomes a professional. Locke is Iowa lineman, very typical offensive lineman. They come baked a certain way, man. They're zone versed, strong, technically very clean. Trevor fits into that lineage. He displays active feet after the snap, well-balanced, strong kick slide. He does a good job mirroring in pass pro. He's as solid as a mover, efficient to his spots, but probably won't be any kind of next level tester. Everything in his athletic frame is just kind of solid down the line. The best of his run blocking is moving out in space or down blocking. He's just a stalemate guy as a run blocker heads up. With Trevor, you get the offerings of a good all-around player without dominance. He'll be in the right spot, limit the whiffs to a minimum, but also might not wow you enough to drive him into the first round. For 2026, a better push at the line of scrimmage when heads up could elevate his stock. For some reason, his feet will go stagnant as a run blocker, whereas he keeps them very active in pass pro. He needs to recognize bull rushers faster too. He'll get into pass set and expect finesse and get his hands in late on a bull rush and then get driven back. So that's why I have him more in a second round place, IG. I do think in Locke, you just have a little bit more of less dominant factors at play there that keep him in the second round. But I think Xavier Land's got a Darrisaw kind of look to him, man. I'm getting Darrisaw vibes. I think the good teams address trenches, the bad teams not so much, 100%. Or they look at it as like a necessary evil we'll eventually get to kind of thing. I remember a guy who put dry milk in his glass of milk so he would get more milk per milk. I agree with the value on Severald. My comp for Locke was Pooney from the Niners. I like it, man. I can see the transition going to guard there, especially because you don't have any dominant traits for him out of tackle, right? Like, does he have, does he have the full meal deal to handle blindside duties? If you flip him to the right tackle, is he power enough to be a right tackle? Or do you take advantage of that mobility and do what a lot of these outside zone teams do and kick that guy into guard? You mentioned Pooney, a guy that was a tackle in college, got moved into guard at the Niners level. Again, we come back to this is kind of that standard. If I'm running an outside zone system, I can't find my athletic guys naturally at the guard position. I'm getting a bunch of Ione type guys at Penn State that might be really talented, but there's some heavy feet there. There's some big, heavy dogs going up and down. He's trying to move around a bit. I need mobility in my system and scheme. How do I find that then? I transition the tackle to guard. Done and done. I teach him leverage. I get him stronger. The system doesn't rely upon him having to be as strong as other systems would ask, like, an Osiris Torrance and how strong he has to be in the Bills system versus, typical guard and other systems may not be tit for tat. So, yeah, I can see that. I like that. I like that comp, man. I can see that same kind of transition with Trevor for sure. Hope this isn't an off year for Myers, his house. I don't want to buy a new TV. Amen, house. Amen. John says just buy the new TV now. Oh, let's go. Let's go. Well, I think it's a good time here to wrap it up on that note. Almost 4 hours in the book here on the channel. We'll be back tomorrow. Might even get Brandon Nelson on the channel to try to cover some of the action going on with the cut down days. It's going to be fast and furious. 1,400 guys will be cut. I imagine we're going to get some trades going on throughout the day. Even if it's not just with Seattle, we're going to get to chart and keep track of what's going on throughout the league, throughout the NFC West. It's always going to be a very interesting day, cut down day for all of the action that's going on. Got a lot set up here coming up this week. I know we don't have a game next week, but we still got a lot on down the line. We'll be doing the B&B show, the Seahawks Syndicate. I'll be doing the Behind Enemy Lines here with Colby from Patriots Global here, sitting down with him on Thursday. And of course, we've got the two back-to-back days, Tuesday and Wednesday, with the NFC West Roundtable. If you're not subbed up over there, get subbed up over there, as we'll be doing 2 shows a week on that side of it as well. I'll be meeting up with Bryce on Friday to be looking at a little bit of our favorite stuff from this preseason in regards to Brian Fleury. What's the best stuff that we liked with this? What's essentially the stuff that really caught our eye and gives us a little bit of an indicator about what we're going to get from him once we get to the regular season. So we'll be covering a lot this week. We got a lot lined up for you guys. I want to thank all of you guys for all of your tremendous support here to this channel. Another 26 donations and member messages. And as you can see, many of these member messages are people that have been here for 30, 40, 50, 60 months, as far as that long period of time that you put your donation and your support behind this channel. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you guys for all you guys do for this. I get to chase my dream, and every day I wake up just thinking about talking football and what we're going to get to discuss. I have today this great book that's sent to me with all of these Largent cards here. All of these Largent cards sent to me from a Rams fan, in fact. Just goes to show you how classy they are. Posters of Largent, post new stuff for my backdrop. It's like Christmas here from you guys today. I'm living a dream, man. I just want to let you guys know, and you may not always come across to you guys, that I get to live the dream in doing this, and it's never lost on me. I am truly blessed by what you guys allow me to get to do here, and I always appreciate it every single day. So it is really, I'm really thankful from the bottom of my heart that you guys let me do this, because it's a hell of a job of what I get to do. I thank you for watching today. Bro, you get better over there, man. Keep taking care of yourself. Rob, go Hawks over on your side. Life's good now, folks. It is. These are hard cuts to be had. Bill, you do the same as well, man. Keep taking care of yourself down there as well, brother, okay? And, life's good. Enjoy this. I've been trying to tell my Hawk fans throughout this offseason, just savor this. Imagine being a Viking fan going through your whole life. The best of what you've seen from your team is the Purple People Eaters in the 70s who fell far short. They were the Buffalo Bills of the 70s. And you got the Buffalo Bills who were the Buffalo Bills. 4 straight Super Bowl losses. Never get back to another one in their lifetime. Bengals teams that don't spend money. Steelers teams that are highly reactive year by year. Bad ownership groups in places like Carolina and the Raiders and the New York Jets. Misery, suffering, darkness. These are the ways of our competition. These are the ways of what our fellow fans are having to deal with throughout the course of this entire nation. And meanwhile, we up here in the Emerald City get to go to Super Bowls on the often. Get to have a young roster that's already gone to the show or already won the show. Get to have some of the smartest processes that you will see from coaching to front office. players that are so very easy to root for, as talented as a team as you'll find in the sport, a feeling of we're just getting warmed up. It don't get better than this. It don't get better than this. Savor the flavor. Enjoy every second of this for every part of what we're getting to experience through it, because these times are unique. And though we've been able to have them happen a couple times over the past 10 years even, don't forget that fact of it as we get to go through this. It's going to be a hell of a year. I hope you're locked in and ready for another Super Bowl run, but just in case you're not, just in case you need another reminder, let me let you know. Don't you ever forget. This team's about ready to go do some special things. We're about ready to go make history. We're about to go wake this nation up about the true greatness of the Seattle Seahawks. So you get locked in, you get loaded, and don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.